the Mazz and Bads Show with Brandon Marrazzo and Charlie Baduini.
Good Thursday morning, my friends. It's another episode of the Mazz and Bads Show coming at you live. I'm your host. Actually, I guess it's not really coming to you live because you're watching this post-record. Never mind. I'm your host, Charlie Baduini. Bads, of course. We got Mazz, Brandon Marrazzo down here, my co-host. Producer Anthony Cafone in the house as always. And our very special guest, Mr. Matt Bruchez. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, and excited to have you on. It's been a long time coming. This is something we've had cooking in the works for, a little while now. Just
a little over a month.
Yeah, gonna be great to get your input on some of these things, and especially, I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of stuff for us to talk about. We can talk about your Saints head coach gig opening. No, okay, never mind. Moving on.
I've seen some of your guys' takes, and you could clearly use my input on some of these.
Wow. I'm just saying, bro, I hit 5K on TikTok the other day, so, you ain't talking to me with that one.
You really feel yourself after hitting that 5,000 views.
It's the biggest ego boost I've ever got. Didn't even check it. Charlie goes, have you seen the TikTok? I go, of course I haven't. I'm an old man. You think I'm on TikTok? I keep it literally just to see how our clips are doing every now and then. And Charlie's just like, just go look for yourself. And then I went, oh, dude, I've been low-key unbearable since it's happened. Just feeling it. Probably never hit it again.
So episode 27 coming at you today. The Tre'Davious White episode.
Ooh.
Back when he was on the Buffalo Bills. It was a really solid corner. Mazz, I'll kick it over to you. But yeah, we're doing a little Bills tribute today.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's been rough, not gonna lie. Just lost Pops. Fighting. We've talked about it on a couple episodes, fighting in the hospital and stuff. But I guess the good Lord called him home, so it is what it is. Die-hard Bill fan. My poor guy saw 4 Super Bowls in a row just not go his way. If you asked them, they only should have beat the Giants. They didn't have a shot in any other Super Bowl. But I'll tell you right now, if Josh Allen pulls this off, I might have to switch over. And if the Cowboys keep down the current path, I think I might be jumping ship over to the Buffalo Bills, honestly. But yeah, dude, it's I lost my best friend, and it's not hard. But thankfully, I have outlets like this. Get after it, and I appreciate you guys for not only your support, not only coming and taking the trip to pay your respects, but also, giving me the time. I know I've been off schedule like crazy lately, so thank you guys for this time, and Pops, thank you for everything. I miss you so much. But we have an episode to get to, and let's get after it. Where we going?
We're going to the best distraction in all of life, and that is NFL playoff football. I think that would be the best place to start here, and that's by talking about some of the divisional round matchup games that we saw last weekend that were just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I don't think a single one of these games missed. They weren't even all one-score games, and on Sunday they were one-score games, but Saturday they were two-score games all the way down to the end. But they were still so entertaining because when it came to the Texans and the Chiefs, the Texans were never out of that game. I mean, people will talk about all they want with the officiating and some questionable calls, the play of the Texans, but it was still really entertaining all the way down to the wire.
I think CJ Stroud just had to play a little better for me, man, to be honest with you. I know that he got blitzed like crazy. He did not look comfortable, but I've seen Sam Darnold take a lot of hate when there's guys that are supposed to have higher potential have similar or less performances. And he's one of those guys that I think of, like, in the next, 5 years, this is going to be the potentially face of the league caliber kind of guy, right? I mean, we weren't always necessarily high on him in terms of being number one from his draft class, but he's proven he's definitely the number one quarterback from his draft class. And I think that when you see some of these guys, step off into the twilight like Matt Stafford and stuff, like the void that is going to be filled with guys like CJ Stroud. And I know that there's been injuries, but he still had a really good wide receiver. They still have an amazing defense, and they have a really good running back. Like, there's weapons to work with. I get it's the Chiefs, but I don't know, dude. He just looked like he never truly got comfortable. I know, he's still young, but he needs to be better. This is a guy, we can't be sitting there bashing Sam Darnold when this is a guy who has so much more potential and is supposed to be a potential face of the league. You got to step up in these moments for me personally. Anybody disagree?
No, I don't disagree with you there. I do think he didn't play as bad as some of the media is saying he played bad. Like he threw for 245. no touchdowns. And I do think that that's, like you said, he's faced some injuries. Ever since Tank Dell went down a few weeks ago, they haven't looked the same as they did earlier in the season. They did have three really good receivers with Diggs, Dell, and Collins, but you lose two of those three, he's going to drop off a bit. The one thing that did impress me, though, the one maybe bright spot that I think he should carry over into next season was his ability to use his legs. He had 42 yards on the ground, and I think that's something that we didn't see a lot of this year or maybe his rookie year. But if that's something that he can capitalize on heading into next year, that would be a really good threat for them.
Yeah, Matt, I'm with you. I think the only reason why the Texans were even in this game in the first place was because of CJ Stroud's play, to be quite honest with you. I think if he gets a little more support from his offensive line,
he took 8 sacks.
8 sacks. He was under duress all freaking day. Shout out Spags, Chiefs DC. He had a great game plan for him. But yeah, if Houston has maybe one of those receivers they lost to injury, or maybe the offensive line just plays a tick better, I think this game is probably not a 9-point differential, but probably by a field goal or something like that. Now, do I think the Chiefs still win this game? Like, with the officiating questioning, I mean, yeah, there was some ticky-tack stuff going on. There always is when you're watching a Chiefs game. But I don't think the Texans played well enough to win, like anyway. I don't think a call goes either way here or there. It changes the outcome. You know what I mean?
Was there anything egregious that you felt that you saw? Because I watched that game and I actually went, wow, this is, for the first time in a long time, I feel like there hasn't been like a giant advantage from, the gentleman in stripes.
A couple of questionable holding calls, in my opinion, on Houston.
I mean, you could call holding on any play, so that's like the hardest thing for me. So like there's literally a hold every time. So like it is what it is. But I feel like I just see more egregious stuff. Like I was actually, although I was rooting for the Texans, I was actually fine from what I saw from the officiating crew, But I will say this, that is there a better defensive coordinator when it comes to blitz packages and actually getting pressure? Because between this playoff game, between single-handedly, like, Spags should have been the MVP for the Super Bowl, if I'm being honest. Those blitzes were insane. That's what messed up Brock Purdy. Like, if they keep on getting after teams, how do you stop this? You don't even need a high-power offense, which they can be capable of. We all know it's a generational quarterback, a generational tight end towards the back end of his career. But and Andy Reid is going down, a top 5 coach all time, I firmly believe. However, it's the defense right now that is just insane, dude. Guys can't do anything against it because the pressure that's coming after him.
You know how you stop it? Your name is Josh Allen. That's how you stop it. That's how you stop it.
I don't know.
I think the big key...
We saw earlier this season that the Chiefs have 2 losses this year. One of them was because Carson Wentz and their entire team did not play, and the other is because they have a quarterback named Josh Allen.
We'll definitely get there at some point today.
Hope it repeats, dude. I hope.
I think the big key for that defense this week was Chris Jones, right? Chris Jones is such an underappreciated member of this dynasty. Like, you talk about Kelsey, Mahomes, Spags, Andy Reid, all these guys who have been, the cornerstones of this dynasty. One name gets kind of overlooked, and that's Chris Jones. He was coming off the edge. He was coming inside as a 5 technique. He was doing everything and just disrupting CJ Stroud in that pocket and forcing him to really leave the pocket that, he's really not as comfortable doing. Chris Jones had a phenomenal game, and I think it's another indication of once January hits, that's when he sort of hits his ceiling. And, as Kelsey had a big game and Jones had a big game, the normal, usual hitters for the Chiefs in playoff time showed up, and it's just the story every year with this team. They have the guys that when the games matter the most, they show up.
And it wasn't just Chris Jones getting to the quarterback. It was forcing double teams on him because he was having such a good game that guys like George Karlaftis on their defense line ended the game with 3 sacks.
Yeah.
So I think that's just what it comes down to when you have players like Aaron Donald at a position that there's other great talents where it's like he's just on such a next level that somebody like Chris Jones is kind of flying, I don't want to say under the radar, but didn't get the spotlight like Donald just because of how dominant he is. But when you have guys like that are just so dominant at their position, as you said, like not only making plays, but just attracting attention to allow somebody else to make a play. It's so underrated, especially when you have to worry about this guy coming right up the middle and blowing up your center and guards, right? And then you can have that flexibility to move him to the outside and now giving different looks. And now it's, you know, everything's different. The offensive lines are sitting there. It's like, oh, we need to know where he is because blocking him first is probably like normally you want to identify your Mike, but when it comes to that Chiefs defense, you got to identify Chris Jones, and that's where everything else I believe is probably going to be running from your offense if you're going to make it go. But the guy is a generational talent, and he is going to be a Hall of Famer at the end of it because he's a key part of a dynasty, and he's dominant, and he's playing with guys that are so powerful on the offensive side that we don't even talk about him as much as we should. But there's a reason why he got the bag not too long ago because he's that guy.
Yeah, and to kind of harp back to what Ant was saying earlier is just that these Chiefs players like they're cornerstones on offense and defense. They're all just playoff risers. Like once it gets cold outside, once they're playing January football, these guys just they raise the bar. They exert some of that energy they may have been saving during the regular season, and yeah, they put their foot on the gas pedal.
I don't think they play their best game. I think their best game is coming soon. And like we talk about the playoff risers, Travis Kelce. I mean, he has looked so slow this regular season, but the second that it's playoffs, he becomes literally like the best receiver of all time, potentially. 7 catches over 100 yards and a touchdown, including like an over 75-yard catch. It's like he was not doing that at all this entire season. And the one, I think, key factor to them for the rest of these playoffs is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. He only had 5 carries this past week against Houston, but we've seen in the past few postseasons that when the weather gets colder and this guy gets angrier, it's very difficult to tackle him.
I think you're almost right there. For me, it's actually Kareem Hunt. I mean, he looked like that one season of Jay Ajayi where he was just dominant. I was just like, what the hell is going on here? Like Kareem Hunt, he's had like good moments when he got, a ton of touches for fantasy wise, being a fantasy owner of his this season. But then the second that Pacheco came back, he just kind of like, started slowly dipping down in terms of production. But now you're expecting Pacheco to step up, and maybe he will, but it's Kareem Hunt who really stepped up in that game and it's really moving the line of scrimmage. I hate it, dude. They just do everything right. The fact that they're so good that they coast for the entire season and then that they can just turn it up. And then Kelsey's in his Jason Witten era. He doesn't even need to, just out. He's just always been a tight end. He's just a big wide receiver, right? Not always the best blocker, but such great deadly hands. And now with the athleticism declining, but the IQ there, he's just pulling a Jason Witten. Like, oh, here's the pocket, buddy. I got you. Safe throws, and then I'll get those yards after catch for you, no problem.
And one factor that is getting a little underlooked as well is their deep threats. Xavier Worthy on the outside with Marquise Brown. Hollywood had a huge catch in that first half that got him down inside the 6 or 7 yard line. Having those guys with speed on the outside is such a huge factor in this Andy Reid offense that it opens up Travis Kelce over the middle when you have to respect the speed on both sides of the ball. DeAndre Hopkins as well as a good route running short option. I mean, I think the Chiefs are finally getting healthy too. That's a big thing. They went 15-2 and they weren't really even healthy this whole season. Mm-hmm. So now like they're starting to get healthy in the receiving core and on their offensive line. Like right now it's looking like the Chiefs again are going to be the team to beat in the NFL. And I said at the beginning of the season, I think they're the Super Bowl champions because they have the pedigree. They have the guys who know how to win. And once they get healthy, they're a dangerous team.
They've won Super Bowls with less offensive help, right? I mean, literally last year, that wide receiver core was so much worse than what they have right this second. It's not the pinnacle wide receiving core, but they just have so much experience, so much talent in other places. Right. And as we said, they can coast the entire year, and now they're really going to be turning it up. And I got to be honest, I'm sick of it.
They lost their best receiver in Rashee Rice like week 3, week 4, and they turned that. And this is an example of just an organization that is gonna win, is because they lost Rashee Rice. They immediately turned that into getting DeAndre Hopkins at the deadline. Granted, he had no catches this past week, but he's still one of those guys like Kelce that his IQ, like he just has really strong hands too, knows how to get open. Xavier Worthy had a very like Rashee Rice type season where his rookie year, they see that potential throughout the first half of the year. And then the last 4 weeks of the year, he was really finding his own. So this is going to be definitely a dangerous team the rest of the way.
You're right. It is that same kind of trajectory where it just once the postseason hit, like it was like he's fully ingratiated in the offense, and all right, let's go.
And they got those fun plays designed for him. I mean, everybody knew that Worthy's speed was going to be next level. I mean, he broke the combine record. And you match him up with Kansas City, they're going to find him ways to get the ball.
So Kansas City advanced, Houston out. Let's move on to the Saturday night divisional playoff game, which was between the Washington Commanders and the number 1 seed Detroit Lions, who were upset at home and were probably one of the more shocking upsets in postseason history. I mean, I don't think anybody expected this Detroit team to go one and done after a 15-win season.
You were right when you first said it. It's a sadder night for, I think, a lot of NFL fans. Like, I love this Washington story. Don't get me wrong. Jane Daniels is awesome to root for. It's definitely a fun team. Like Dan Quinn as the head coach, Cliff Kingsbury's revenge arc after having a failed stint with Arizona. But man, the Lions deserve some happiness. I mean, this is one of the worst organizations of all time in the NFL. They have never won anything. And this is the team. They absolutely dominate in the regular season. They get David Montgomery back. Like, this team is built for a Super Bowl run. And last year's loss against the Niners where they blew a lead, and this time they never even get a lead. It's just I feel really bad for Detroit.
It was so sad in that fourth quarter where the camera's panning around and there's all these like Detroit people just like literally like looking just like they'd seen a ghost or something like that. It was sad to see. But I mean, dude, the way the Commanders played, like they had a plan. They came in and they executed that plan. They forced turnovers. They were going for it on fourth downs. They were beating the Lions at their own game. Jaden Daniels, man, probably
he's so good.
He's so cool, so calm, so collected. No matter what the situation is, you blitz him, he's going to stand there in the pocket and make the throw. If he's running, you pop him real quick, he gets back up, same way every time, trots back to the huddle. He is so calm, so chill. And I think that's what's so important. And you don't see a lot with a lot of rookie quarterbacks. And why they've advanced this far is because they'll get rattled. I mean, I'm a huge Caleb Williams fan. I think he's got all the talent in the world. You saw a lot of times this year where he got overwhelmed. He got frustrated by either, the lack of his team's support of him or, missing a throw here or there. Daniels is just from all of his experience in college playing. I think he played 5 seasons as a college starter, if I'm not mistaken. It's just that has prepared him for this moment of just being able to be ready for every game. It's incredible.
It's absolutely insane how we're sitting here and it's like everybody wants to get the youngest guy possible, but we're seeing him and Bo Nix, I mean, looking like the 2 best quarterbacks out of this class right now for their season. I'm not sure if that's going to, continue for years down the road. I'm sure Caleb Williams is going to kick it up, but the 2 most experienced guys are looking like your 2 best bets right now. And I wonder if teams are going to start thinking, hey, maybe we just go with that experience instead of the potential. Everybody thinks that they can mold the guy into being the next guy, but I'm sorry, not every organization is capable of it. You need to understand what your strengths are. Some are X's and O's, some are development, some are just motivational. Let's get the best talent on here and we can get them to work together and put the egos aside. You need to play to your strength as an organization. You can't just be looking at guys as to why aren't you becoming what we want you to become. You got to play to their strengths. You know what I'm saying? And having these young guys go against grown-ass men who've been playing almost a decade plus in the league in some cases, like, yeah, dude, you pick up things while playing this game. It's played at such a faster pace. College looks like it's faster because the defense is worse. There's just more openings. It's not being played at a faster level. We're dealing with the top 0.01% the sport has to offer. And these organizations, they just mess me up. And listen, don't get me wrong. Detroit, it was a hell of a story. Unfortunately, the last debate that me and Pops got into, he was trying to say that Jared Goff was elite. And I said, I don't know about that. I think it's a really great offense. I think that defense is phenomenal. I literally have text message proof with my cousin of saying, I think that the Commanders are going to win this game because the defense on Detroit, there's nothing, dude. It's literally grab a sheet from your bed right now. That's the defense. You try to throw it on something. If it doesn't hit, that's it. It's gone. It's busting you wide open. That's exactly what happened here. And as you said, when you have a mobile quarterback who in his first year not getting rattled and is just seeing the field. He has those options to take off, throw the ball. And side note, dude, I hate how he throws the ball. It looks so effortless. I feel like the arm's not fully extended. It's just a little flick of the wrist. Literally, not this, just this right here, halfway through. And it's just up in the air forever. And you're like, somebody's got to pick that, right? Like somebody
and that works.
make a play. And it just falls right into the damn spot every time. I absolutely hate that the Commanders have hit on him, but you know what? It's been really cool to see a young kid come in and dominate the league. I can't even lie, as a Cowboys fan. Yes, I am a hater, but I will be honest. I am quite impressed. However, the last person I gotta blame for all of Detroit's problems right now, the first owner when they were the Detroit Lions, George A. Richards. Me and Ant got into a conversation the other night where I was like, I think I know the story for almost every team as to why they are named what they are. And Ant tested me, and like the fourth one that he threw out, I knocked the other three out of the park, but the fourth one he threw out was the Detroit Lions, and I did not know. George A. Richards purchases the what was that? Portsmouth Spartans, moves them to Detroit. This isn't like, I don't even know, dude, like 1934. This is in 1934. He names them the Detroit Lions, one, because the Detroit Tigers are always there, so he wanted to play off the big cats, but because he said, and I quote, this franchise is going to be the monarchs of the league. So just coming in with that kind of cockiness, this is exactly why they're not getting nice things. This is exactly why they have wasted generational talents like Barry Sanders and Megatron. This is exactly why, in their most dominant year ever, injuries have taken them out. It's just, he cursed them. That's it. It's the curse.
A 90-year jinx.
Oh, yeah. The curse of Bobby
That
Lane.
could be it. That could be it. Me personally, I'm going to blame Ben Johnson. I mean, all right. I'm just gonna lay this out there, right? Jahmyr Gibbs in this game, 14 carries, 105 yards, 7.5 per carry, 2 touchdowns. You double that. If you give the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs 30 times this game, I think 9 times out of 10, the Lions win. Like, genuinely. They had no answer for him. He was just knifing through him at will. And the fact that they would go away from him in certain scenarios where they would be trying to throw it or trying to get a reverse to Jameson Williams so he could throw it downfield. If they had just ran the ball 30 times, I genuinely believe that they win this game.
But the thing is, Charlie, like, how can you blame Ben Johnson? You put up 31 points. You should win the game. Like, that should be enough to win a game. Like, you give up 45 points on the defensive side of the ball, I get with all these injuries, you're not going to win. Like, it's so hard to outscore an opponent that is just playing hot football. I think the Lions got caught up in trying to have the perfect game plan. The defense, like we said, is shredded. Like, when you're putting practice squad at guys out there at DB to guard Terry McLaurin, it's not going to work. And it was a tough ending for this Lions team because you knew if they stayed healthy, if they stayed to their group, this was a Super Bowl bound team. And I don't think anyone in the NFC really had a chance at knocking them out. And I still thought that if there was a team that was going to knock out this Lions team, it was going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. But I got humbled this week. I picked the Lions overwhelmingly to blow out, and the Commanders and Jaden Daniels really proved me wrong. And good for them, you know. I can't.
I didn't think anybody was going to beat the Lions, and I don't think they necessarily even lost to Washington. I think they beat themselves. I mean, like, the clear point blank stat that you can just look at from this game is Washington Commanders had 0 turnovers and the Lions had 5. I don't know how you win a game with 5 losing the turnover margin by 5. They only lost by 2 scores. You take away 2 of those turnovers, they turn that into scores, and it's a tie ball game. But we're also, I wanted to say real quick that we were, cutting some slack to CJ Stroud earlier because he did lose 2 of his weapons earlier in the year. Jaden Daniels had 0 sacks against him. And his top receiver, I mean, we're talking about Washington's receiver core. His top receiver this game was Diami Brown. This is Jaden Daniels.
Put some respect on Diami Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown was talking all this smack, saying, the Commanders or whoever they were at the time, the Washington football team, took Diami Brown over me, and I don't forget that. Well, now you're going to remember it, Amon-Ra, because Diami Brown just eliminated your team in the playoffs.
Yeah, so circling back with what both you guys are saying, Ant and Matt, with the, like, you run Jahmyr Gibbs 30 times, Jared Goff doesn't have 3 picks. He doesn't have a fumble. He might have a interception, maybe the fumble. You can tack it onto there. But I'm just saying, taking the ball out of his hands was the best play there for the Lions, as much as they could, and they just didn't do that. And I think the lights got a little too bright for Mr. Goff, but it is what it is at this point now.
He is who I thought he was. Okay, he is who I thought he was. Real quick, I want to shout out Jahmyr Gibbs. That vision is absolutely insane. That kid is going to be a star for many, many, many years. Okay?
I don't think it's a hot take to say he's the best running back in the league
this year.
Saquon.
Saquon Barkley.
Top 3.
I got Derrick Henry too. I'm going to give respect.
No,
to
I'm taking Jahmyr over Derrick. Honestly,
I disagree with you right now.
I see what Matt's trying to say though. Like in terms of being a
Jahmyr Gibbs is not dropping that wheel route that he could have taken to the house.
Okay, but I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is also playing the style of football that Derrick Henry is, of just running straight through you 30 times a game, which has helped the Ravens get to
or
where
run
they reached.
straight around you 30 times a game.
You think if Jahmyr Gibbs is on the Ravens, what he puts up? What kind of numbers he puts up?
Can you imagine, like, Derrick Henry if he was in an actual, like, system that is predicated on the pass? Like, Lamar had a good passing year, don't get me wrong, but, like, I feel like Detroit, like, there's weapons more so than what you have for the Ravens in terms of just receiving, right? So that opens up a lot more, especially mixing that in with the defense when they're healthy, taking off that pressure. I feel like Derrick Henry thrives with Detroit. I think, Gibbs has a really good season with the Ravens, but I just think that Derrick Henry has proven, you put me in better situations, my numbers go up exponentially, not just a little bit. I get back to prime status, and I'm supposed to be towards the later half of my career right now. He's a monster, he's the king, and he's the second best running back in the league right now. So I respect the take, and I hear you. You want to give props to the young brother, but the old man is still here right now, proving I really can do this, and he should have been a damn Cowboy, but we'll get into that another time.
Can I say one more thing on this game?
Yep.
How about Dan Campbell's comments after the game, like in that press conference? And you just saw like the guy, like emotional, sad, like really just saying, I feel for the players, like this is on them. I still think he's a great head coach, despite this loss, despite the way this season ended. Like you can't blame a guy for having a whole defense pretty much going down. I don't blame him for that. Like I think that was the reason why this game ended up the way it was. I just want to give props to Danny Campbell because you could tell this guy got the most out of this team this year, the way they played, and I think he's going to stick around for a long time. Even though both of his coordinators just got poached, we'll talk about that in a little bit, he's still going to be a very good head coach and long tenured as long as he keeps the right guys around him.
I just think that we just get too caught up in the turnovers. Just like, oh, they didn't win a Super Bowl, he might not be the guy. Like, and we start like this narrative, like, dude, this guy literally gets no-name guys to run through the wall for him. Now, of course, if you ask Myles Garrett, nobody's a no-namer. You're in the NFL. I got it. But like guys that doesn't have like as big as a profile makes plays for him. This guy comes through with his 5,000 milligrams of caffeine in him in the morning, and he just motivates guys. Like, is he the greatest schemer of all time? No. Does he have a little bit of Riverboat Ron in him when it comes to taking those chances? Absolutely, and that has hurt them in the past, but this is a guy I think guys want to play for. He knows what it's like to be in the league. He literally is, if you're going to come from a place of authority, you respect it more, not because you had success down in college and was with a bunch of younger guys. This is a guy who's been in the league, very much well established, and I'm going to listen to him because he's been in these shoes, and most of all, he freaking cares. This isn't a job. This is a passion, my friend. And you know what? I love the guy. I wish he was my head coach. Everybody should be feeling that. But like, you look at guys who have winning seasons constantly and they fall short, and it's always like, oh, are they on the hot seat? It's hard to get an Andy Reid. It's impossible to get a Bill Belichick. When you have a gem like this, you need to stick with it, because I promise you the grass is not greener on that other side.
Play this game.
I feel like this is a great time to. We can always get back to the last two games in divisional round, but it's a good time to discuss about like what's next for the Lions. Are they done? Is their window closed, or are they going to have more opportunities in the next few years to be competing for championships?
I think it definitely matters who their next OC and DC are going to be. I think they would be stupid to bring in anybody out of house. Like, it's just a simple move the quarterback's coach or somebody up to offense coordinator, try and keep a very similar system. I don't think their window's closed. This team is too talented. Their offensive line is top 3 in the league. They'll get 23-year-old Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery is going to be back and probably healthy. Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams took that next step. Sam Laporta. What really matters, and we touched on it, was the defensive injuries. Once they get all those guys back, this team will be just fine.
I think in the draft, you got to go defense, and more defense just to bolster the ranks. If they literally the difference between them being in the NFC Championship game and being in the Super Bowl and not is literally having defensive injuries. I firmly believe that's the only reason why Washington won. They should, on paper, yes, they should have beaten them. If they were fully healthy, it's not even a question. The only reason why I picked Washington in this game is because there was literally nothing on the defense. If they stay healthy, they'll be just fine. However, easier said than done.
I think that they should definitely still be the favorite to win the division next year. I don't think anyone else in that division is going to be getting exponentially better. But there will probably definitely be a bit more. I don't think they won't have 15 wins again because they'll be figuring out life with new coordinators, everything, which is going to be really interesting to see who they promote. I mean, I know, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are probably going to poach themselves from the lower parts of the Lions staff. I mean, that remains to be seen what kind of staff that's going to shape out there. But regardless, I think it's all safe to say that we're all still pretty high on the Lions, even after a loss like this.
If you are the Lions, are you feeling a little salty about Ben Johnson and the choice to go to Chicago? Because you had your options, my friend. He could have went almost anywhere in the league that he wanted to, and the Raiders were very high on him. And then all of a sudden, no, I actually think I'm going to go play with Caleb Williams. Not only am I going to go play with this, up-and-coming kid that I think that I could turn into a star. Obviously, they have offensive weapons, so I can see, and the defense is pretty established. I can see why he would want to go there, but I'm a little salty staying in division and then also stirring the pot, talking about Kevin O'Connell beating him twice a year. Like, this was a saucy move from him. I'm very curious what the thought process fully was. And if you're Dan Campbell, are you a little pissed?
I'm not a little pissed. I think Dan Campbell's a competitor. I think Ben Johnson's a competitor. I think they're going to love to compete against one another. And this isn't something that is very brand new to the Detroit Lions because they took David Montgomery from the Bears 2 years ago. So I think, they take from each other, they give to each other, and I'm sure they're going to love to battle against one another.
Real quick,
so
sorry. I have the soundbite of Dan Campbell if you want me to play it.
Hit it.
Here, I'll play it right now.
It's just not the time, man. It's hard, when you lose these games, man. It's like the players,
Yeah, just talk about like the players and what they had to go through this season. It's tough, And you talk about it, guys. Like he brought over David Montgomery. He brought like all the right moves that a lot of people were kind of head scratching, like Jared Goff. Is this going to be the guy? But this team was a 15-win team for a reason, and you could say the coordinators played a factor into why they, where they were. But again, Dan Campbell brought these guys to the picture. It's not like he's like we always try to make the stereotype that Dan Campbell's like, oh, he's this dumb jock who is a rah-rah motivator. Like, he definitely knows the X's and O's of football. He played in the game for 10 years as a tight end. Like, he knows.
Absolutely.
He absolutely knows the game inside and out. Right, like so.
I think there's different aspects to knowing of the game, though, right? You don't need to be an X's and O's guys, and listen. I'm not saying that he's dumb. He's definitely not, right? But I'm not going to sit here and say that he's as good as an X's and O's guys as Ben Johnson is, right? I think that he just excelled in different spaces, and just because you're good at playing the sport doesn't mean that you fully understand the sport better than somebody who's just, there's performance and there's breaking things down. I think for him, it's not an X's and O's. It's literally like, dude, just do your job. We're going to put you in the best situation. It's my job to go out there and get the guys to get you in the best situation. and then I'm going to hold you accountable, hold myself accountable, and make sure that we have this free-flowing organization of accountability and that we want people in the building that actually want to be there. That's my job. It's not the X's and O's, right? It's evaluating situations and capitalizing on it. I think that's his strength. But to say that he's dumb, no. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, I think Dan Campbell's the ultimate X's and O's guys. No, I think he excels in just about everything else but the X's and O's, and that's what he has coordinators for. The head coach's job is to not excel in X's and O's. It's to be the ultimate manager of your organization, you know? El Capitan, if you will.
All right, so to tie a little bow on this conversation, I just wanted to drop the stat real quick that Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are the first Lions coordinators to leave for head coaching jobs since the JFK administration.
Are you serious?
Swear.
Wow.
So shout out to the Detroit Lions. Things are on the up and up for them.
I got to be honest, though, I do worry about Jared Goff moving forward without a Ben Johnson. There's a lot of talent there going on, but I think that he's firmly he's risen from that to that second tier guy. But there was debates on whether or not he was going to jump into that first tier guy. And I don't know, man. I don't think he's quite elite. I think we're talking second half of the top 10, and I think it might be dropping back down to 15 if they don't bring in the right coordinator. However, the rest of the team, I think, is going to be good enough to overcome that. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely we'll see. But for now, Detroit Lions, rest easy. You were fun to watch this year. But moving on to the Sunday games, we had the Los Angeles Rams in Philadelphia playing the Eagles. And what was a second half snow game. That was a lot of fun to watch. It conjured memories of the 2013 Lions Eagles snow game that Matt Stafford was a part of way back in the day. It was really close all the way down to the end, 28-22 final score. The Rams had a shot in this one, but turnovers again. I mean, not as costly as they were in the Detroit game for the Lions, but still the difference in the game. Stafford coughed one up. Kyron Williams did as well. And the Eagles capitalized. Saquon had a monster game. And the Eagles are back in the NFC Championship game, guys.
Anytime I think about this game and I think about the Eagles, I think of the video of these guys that are pushing this pickup truck, right? They're pushing it out of the snow. And then there's one guy that's on the bed of the truck that's also pushing. And that's Jalen Hurts. That man is he's getting carried. He had a great run for 40 yards and a touchdown. That was great. But this man is
nothing afterwards. Nothing.
He's done 128 passing yards. Like, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I pray that Jalen Hurts does not get the Super Bowl MVP. It's got to be Saquon. It's got to be somebody else, because Jalen Hurts is really not doing enough for me to be crowned the Super Bowl MVP and to be in that elite threshold of quarterbacks. He's not there.
Can you just imagine?
Mazz, but before you respond, I just want to get something in real quick.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm with you, but I am going to give him some grace for this game. Coming off the concussion and the knee injury is a little tough. Sorry, Mazz, go ahead.
I'm with you on that one, but I'm sorry, guys. I'm just having like visions of sugar plums right now. Can you imagine if Dak Prescott got to play for a franchise as competent as the Philadelphia Eagles with this squad? I mean, literally just take out Jalen and put in Dak. I mean, that's Super Bowl right there for me. I said what I said. Better passer, but he's literally getting carried. I know he got the concussion, but dude,
Jaden Daniels is better than him.
That's we'll talk about that another time. You might be right. But I'll tell you right now, this organization is just so good where like your quarterback could have that mediocre, bad game and you still come out on top. Why? Because the offensive line is that dominant. That defense is that good, and you have the best running back in the damn league. And you also have a really good wide receiver core that I think we don't talk enough about because we always...
Because they don't get the ball. He doesn't throw it.
But they can help you out major if they could just get someone to sling it. I mean, that's a whole nother... This should be the most dominant team. When you look at paper, for me, there's only two teams that I feel that are like complete football teams when they are fully healthy. That is the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. They're the only two where I look I'm sorry.
The Ravens?
The San Francisco Niners. No, I'm sorry. Your wide receiver core is not it.
What?
I don't like it. It's not it. Stop it. Stop trying to act like you have wide receivers that are in the same goddamn caliber as Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown,
Zay Flowers and
people
Rashad
said
Bateman, who had just had career
They're not
years.
They're not there.
Come on.
Bro,
Stop it.
stop that.
Yeah, your wide receivers were so good. Where did get you versus Buffalo, baby? Stop it. They have a better wide
Zay was
receiver
hurt.
core than you.
Zay was hurt.
I know, I got that.
So
I got
that's
that.
one.
Listen,
That's their best
you
Pro
don't-
Bowl
no,
receiver
listen,
right there.
You 110% do not have a better wide receiver core than the two franchises.
Maybe not, but they're
It's not
to
even
say they're
close.
not a complete
Not even
team
close.
is a lie.
They're not.
The Ravens
You're
were a
missing
complete
wide
team.
receivers. They were not.
Better.
missing
So
wide
you're saying that
receivers.
so the Lions and the Ravens defenses. Ravens are a better defense, right? So that means the Lions aren't a complete team.
What do you mean?
The Ravens have a better
He said
defense than the
fully
Lions.
healthy.
I said when fully healthy,
Okay.
right? It's a complete team.
Okay.
So yes, you guys have a good defense. You have a great quarterback. You have a great run game. You have a decent offensive line. But no,
But
your
the
wide
Lions
receiver
have a
core is
worse
not a top
aspect.
5
than
wide
the,
receiver
the
core,
Ravens.
bro.
The Lions have a worse defense than the Ravens, and they have probably a worse offensive line.
But the difference between those defenses when fully healthy is way shorter than the difference between your wide receiver.
That's not
cores.
true.
You
That's
do
just
not have a
completely
top
not true.
5 wide
That's
receiver. core.
completely
It's
not true.
Hey, you're not gonna sit here and tell me that you want.
Zay
I'd
Flowers
rather
a
have
Pro Bowler.
I legitimately. You were not going to sit here and tell me that they're outside of maybe Zay Flowers that you want anybody over Devonta Smith on that team. You're not going to sit there and tell me you want Bateman over Devonta Smith. I sure
think
as
the
hell know
gap
you don't
is
want it
closer
over
than you
AJ Brown.
think.
You need to stop this.
Bateman's a red zone
Cincinnati
threat.
has a better wide receiver core than you. San Francisco, better wide receiver
Bateman
core
double-digit
than you.
receiving
You need
touchdowns.
to
Double
stop
digits.
it. You need to stop. You need to stop. Just stop it. They're not better. I'm sorry. You can't sit there and tell me, how come every time we talk about a Lamar MVP, I want to boast off the Ravens, and you want to knock them down? They're not that good. He's doing so much, this and that. And now you're going to sit there and tell me it's a complete team.
I didn't say
it's
they.
not a complete
I didn't
team.
say they were
It's not.
terrible. I did not say they were not a good team.
They're not
That's
a complete
not what I
team.
said.
Dude, if they literally bolster their wide receiver core, you're probably a Super Bowl champion this year. But you're not. You need a better passing game. Lamar had a really good year, but other guys need to step up. You need to bolster that wide receiver. That's literally the glaring spot for me. Somebody needs to bail Lamar out. It can't be Mark Andrews anymore. And Zay was hurt. I got that. But nobody else could step up fully. It's not a good wide receiving core. Lamar is elevating that. Stop it. Stop it. It's just like Josh Allen. Josh Allen does not have a great wide receiving core. He's elevating guys, even though they use more guys than any other goddamn team, it feels like, of just no names catching passes. I don't care that they're being productive. It's not a good wide receiving core. That is the difference. You have a hell of an organization, but you need to understand the difference between having an elite group at all places and having decent or kind of good or really good at different places. Your defense is elite. I will give you that. You hate your offensive line. It's not elite. You love your running game, and you should. It's elite. You love your quarterback. He's elite. You cannot sit there and tell me that you are madly in love and you want to be married to that wide receiver core, because I promise you they will let you down more than me after New Year's Eve trying to stick to this diet, baby. Stop it.
I mean, they didn't really let anybody. The receiving core was not the problem. It was Mark Andrews who was the problem. He's not the receiving core. He's a tight end.
Who else was catching passes that game, man?
Bateman caught the early touchdown.
Right, and who else?
And
who else? And who else?
Likely.
Likely
But
Aguilar.
where's the wide receiving core? Where's the wide
Aguilar?
receiving core at? They don't. You want to give me an Aguilar? Are you kidding me? Stop it. You're smiling right now because you know, damn it, I shouldn't have brought this up. Keep it moving, Charlie. We're wasting time.
I just wanted to say we were talking about Rams Eagles, and I just wanted to say one last note on that game is that I think if it wasn't as heavy of a snow game, I think the Rams come out on top. I'll be completely honest. I think the only reason why those turnovers happened in the first place was because the ball was getting slick and wet and whatnot. So I'll just say I think the Rams find a way to come out on top of this one with normal weather conditions.
Saquon's still that dude. I mean, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, good God.
I don't know
what happens when elite talent gets to competency franchises. The Giants literally almost ruined this man's career single-handedly.
Not trying to discredit Saquon at all because I agree he's the number 1 running back in football right now. But who knows if he breaks off that big run if they're not in the snow. I mean, he did against them in the regular season, but you know, guy takes a different angle of pursuit. Maybe he gets better footing in the ground without the snow. Who knows?
But to be fair, though, right, then he has another shift of gear because then he's not slipping all over the place, and the offensive line gets better footing too. So literally, you don't know. I still think he goes for it. Maybe he has more success.
I feel like the moment
All
a
right,
West Coast team
possible.
goes to the East Coast for a playoff game, like it always ends up in the East Coast team winning, right? Like especially with an outdoor stadium, like they're just not used to that cold, like you said, Charlie.
Yeah.
It just seemed like
Unless they're the San Francisco 49ers against Aaron Rodgers.
that's true actually. But San Fran's cold. A lot of people don't know that. San Fran
Not
is a
snowy.
cold. It's a cold city.
Yeah.
It's not like
Very
they're playing in heat every week.
It's that Bay wind, bro.
It's that Bay wind, absolutely. But like again, like it's. I feel like the Rams got caught up in the snow. They couldn't hold on to the football, and then Philly on the other end, like with Saquon, I think he's just a tone setter. And we all thought he should have gotten paid in New York when he was with the Giants, and the major factor was that he was the offense. I think now at the Eagles, he's still the offense. Like we said, Jalen Hurts, as much as he's could do things with his legs, and when you give him a clean pocket, he can get things done. I don't think he's in the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
He ain't Dak Prescott.
He ain't Dak Prescott.
He ain't Lamar Jackson.
No, he
He's
ain't.
not Lamar.
No, he ain't.
He ain't Josh Allen.
Absolutely not. And
I'm sorry.
I think that it gets proven almost every week. But I still think the Eagles right now have the best chance of in the NFC before Washington took down Detroit, of taking down Detroit. Because I think they match up well. I think they could control the clock. They do a great job of grinding out long drives with Saquon and just run. And that was like the problem. How LA almost came back into the game in the last 5 minutes was because Philly was kind of abandoning the run a little bit. When literally from the third quarter to the midway point of the fourth quarter, it was just Saquon run almost every single play, and it was working. And they decided to start throwing the ball a little bit in that 5-minute area, and that's when LA got on those 2 scoring drives and made it a close game. I think as long as they ride Saquon, they have a chance at winning the Super Bowl.
I think you're dead right, and I want to go back to that Giants point real quick. I wasn't mad that the Giants had to get rid of him. You do not let that kind of talent walk out the door without compensation. That's my biggest problem. Of course, he's a win-now player. You're not looking to build around Saquon Barkley when you literally haven't even laid the damn foundation. He's the crown jewel with no foundation. I'm fine if you're letting him go and have success. You cannot let him go in division, and you do not let him walk out the door for absolutely nothing. I don't care if it's a 3rd-round pick. You got to get something back for it. Of course, should have been more than that.
Yeah, if I'm the Giants, the second I caught wind that he was checking Philly out, I would have franchise tagged him immediately. But no, that's not happening.
Yeah, I would have been franchise tagged and trade. That's it. You're not it's fine if you're going, but we're getting something. You cannot. We're gonna expect you to take a hometown deal, even though we run you into the ground and we're the reason why you get injured every goddamn year because we just overuse you. But hey, you're not as valuable to us, even though you're our entire goddamn offense. So we're not gonna pay you.
And don't forget, we also have won 4 games in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
All right, quick hypothetical for you guys, because we're all kind of low-key slandering Jalen Hurts right now. Would you rather have Jalen Hurts? You're starting a franchise, picking your quarterback. You're between these 2 guys. Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Justin Herbert.
That's a tough question.
I remember having this conversation with you two after the Eagles Super Bowl run, yeah. and you guys calling me crazy for saying Justin Herbert.
At the time, you were wrong.
I'd still take Jalen Hurts.
At the time, I was not wrong.
No. At the time, you were wrong.
No.
And I'm telling you right now, I think I still would rather have Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I'd still have Jalen Hurts, I think.
I'd rather have Jalen Hurts.
It's emotional.
No, it's not emotional. How am I emotional?
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I'm saying, how am I emotional? I should hate the Eagles. I'm giving props over here. That ain't emotional. I'm just thinking logical. You want to sit here and tell me that Justin Herbert has a better arm? I'm with you. You want to sit there and tell me that Justin Herbert is in a worse situation? I'm with you. However, there's facets to Jalen Hurts that I prefer. Even when having a bad game, they can find a way to win. I honestly think that he's not the biggest choker in the world. All right, I prefer his composure. I just prefer him on my team. I prefer that he has that his running capability with it. And let's not forget, it's Jalen Hurts who was able to do the tush push that has changed the facet of the game. My man can take contact. So it's yes, I know. If you swap their situations, yes, Herbert would be looking a lot better and Jalen Hurts would be looking a lot worse. And I do agree that your boy throws a better ball. However, there's other facets to the game besides just throwing. And I like Jalen Hurts. Even when he's having a down game, he's composed. He ain't Dak Prescott, but he's pretty good.
I think the dual.
I do
threat
agree
too.
that Herbert's playoff ability definitely has given Hurts the upper hand because of the fact that it seems like every time Herbert's in the playoffs, he crumbles. But I mean, the profiles that they each have. I mean, you said it, and this was going to be my biggest point, was that you put Justin Herbert in the Eagles, and they are clearly the favorite. And, Jalen Hurts is really good at doing the tush push. But, I mean, Justin Herbert's 6'6". You put him under that line, you put two guys behind him, he's getting pushed into that end zone every single time. Jalen Hurts is not that much stronger than him.
Listen, Jalen Hurts is way more stronger than him. I've seen the squatting from him. Stop this right now. If Herbert takes a hit that Hurts has taken, he's out for 6 games, bro. There's nowhere near the same level of strength.
Hurts is flexible.
You want to say arm strength? That's different.
Hurts is flexible too. His body contort. He gets hit. His body can contort into like different ways to get out of.
Dude, he's built he's like a smaller Saquon in terms of just like built. Like he's muscular as hell. He's strong as hell. I'm sorry. Yes, I hear what you're saying, but no, he's not taking the contact like Hurts. And I understand why you guys prefer him. You guys like the stats. You like the passing capability. And you guys are very much both of you prefer quarterbacks that can air it out. I mean, Matt's been blessed with Drew Brees his entire life, for crying out loud. I understand it. Yes, and Justin Herbert is much more capable of being a Drew Brees-esque quarterback than Jalen Hurts ever will be, and I understand you for that. And Charlie, Mr. Aaron Rodgers over here, Mr. Patrick Mahomes over here, I understand. You value the throwing capability so much. I got you, but I'm just saying, when push comes to shove, I think personally I'd rather have Jalen Hurts. If you strip them both down to having absolutely nothing, I trust Jalen Hurts to be more healthy throughout the season than I do Justin Herbert personally. So I'm rocking with it.
All right, I'll let you. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. We're gonna agree.
I hate that you guys have me defending the Eagles right now. This should not.
We're gonna agree to disagree. You just love Jalen Hurts that much, man.
I think we're gonna be impressed with Justin Herbert's rushing ability next year. He ran for his most yards this season, and I think next year he'll even use them even more.
Because his ankle was banged up this year throughout the season, so he wasn't too easy to do that on, I'm sure. But anybody else got anything they want to add on that?
I did want to talk about the fact that we're going to see an unstoppable object against the unstoppable force
versus a movable object.
Yeah, we're going to see that next week because, I mean, this Philly defense is really good. And they have Jalen Carter. They have some studs on that D-line. Jaden Daniels has only taken 1 sack this entire postseason. And I think that's going to be the difference next week. I think Philly has a better position group in every single position except maybe quarterback. I mean, that's a debate that we can have between Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts. But quarterback is the most important difference because you can have the best defense in the world, but if you have somebody like Jaden Daniels making plays happen and throwing to Diami Brown, who's somehow going to get open, we could see maybe an even bigger upset next week.
Wait, can I ask a question real quick? Is Kenyon Mitchell healthy?
He's practicing this week. I saw.
He is. I know he got hurt in that fourth quarter, so I don't know if he's going to be available. That's a
and then the other injury note real quick is the Commanders lost Sam Cosmi, who's their best offensive lineman. He tore his ACL last weekend, so that's going to be a tough blow. It's a tough blow.
But I'll tell you right now, this Philly defense is way better than that Lions defense. I mean, just from the fact of being healthy, and they arguably have been the best defense in the league this year, especially when you want to talk about secondary. Good Lord, I just feel like they're locking down everything. So yeah, maybe they're not going to get the sacks. I understand that, but listen, as you said, position groups. I will raise you right now. Yes, I understand that the quarterback is the prized possession, but the most important thing when it comes to a football team is an offensive line. And this is one of the best offensive lines in the league right now when it comes to Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts is not getting touched. Jalen Hurts just literally needs to not mess up. He doesn't even need to be elite. They can literally win this game just by game managing and just not being
Hand the ball to
overwhelmed by pressure.
Saquon.
Literally, jump the ball off over on a little out route. Like, you do not have to go out there and be Peyton Manning, a 5-time MVP to win this game. You're that much better in every position. I do not see
Get on
Washington
top of
pulling this
that
one off.
Ram truck bed.
Literally, and let it be pushed.
Guys.
Push it to the end zone. I'm telling you right now, it's Philadelphia by 10 plus.
I'm with you. I say Philadelphia by at least a touchdown. I don't see the Commanders getting, was it 5 takeaways again? I don't see them having as much success on 4th and short. And yeah, they're not going to be able to stop Saquon. I mean, I just said Jahmyr Gibbs ran for 170 on them, or not 170. I'm sorry, that was Saquon's numbers, like 115 or something like that. 7.5 yards a carry. Yeah, I just don't think I don't think the Commanders are equipped to take down this Philly team, and they won't have the element of surprise on their side this time like they did against the Detroit Lions. Philly's going to be ready.
It's been a fun run, but yeah, a rookie quarterback has literally never started in the Super Bowl.
Nope.
And I don't know if that's going to change this week.
It's not going to change.
The one that Brock Purdy almost did if he didn't get hurt. I think if Brock Purdy stayed healthy a few years ago, that he would have been.
I'll go back to that game. I think they win that game if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, but that's just me.
You already know how I feel about that.
All right, let's advance to probably the most anticipated game of the divisional round slate, and that was the Baltimore Ravens taking a trip up to Buffalo to play the Bills.
Never in my life did I ever have such anxiety for a team that's not even my team. I wanted the Buffalo Bills to win this so bad. As we said, Pop's diehard Bills fan. And can I just tell you, I was so unbiased this day too, just in group chats talking, because Ant losing his mind over the refs in our chat. And I had my good friend Logan, shout out Logan, the other only Buffalo Bills fan that I know in my entire life. First time my dad ever met him, I go, Dad, this is Logan. He's a Bills fan. He goes, no, you're not. He goes, no, sir, I am. Dad throws him a quick question. He answered it. He goes, holy hell, there's another one of us. Turns to his bar, grabs his Buffalo Bills mug and goes, I want you to have this. And that was over like 8 years ago. That mug is still on Logan's desk today. Shout out my man, Log. But I'll tell you right now, Log was complaining about the refs of saying like, oh my God, they're just not calling anything. They're just letting them die out there, this and that. And I'm like, no, they're calling this bad. It's bad officiating. But there's no advantage going towards the Ravens. And then Ant the same way. Yes, it is bad officiating. There is no advantage going towards the Bills. Everybody suffered from bad officiating. However, I was loving the no calls. Let them play. This is the playoffs. I'm here for a battle. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. You will never, ever, ever convince me that Mark Andrews drops that pass without something supernatural happening. I believe my father tapped him in the nuts.
Yeah. I had a relatively hot take coming off this game, and that was that I didn't come away impressed with Buffalo. Which
how could you not be?
I'm not impressed because they won the turnover battle 3-0, right? Two fumbles and a pick from Lamar, or a fumble and a pick from Lamar, one fumble from Andrews. The Ravens outgained the Bills, and they somehow still found a way to make this a one-score game down to the end.
I don't think people understand how much better of a roster Baltimore is. That's why it's a one-score game. I'm impressed because Baltimore should have destroyed this team. This is Cinderella story to the max. 9 Pro Bowlers on that Ravens team right now. They are a hell of a franchise. Lamar's probably going to win the MVP. 10?
Because Van Noy just got it this week.
Thank you. 10 on that damn team. Okay, Lamar's probably going to be the MVP, even though I think it should be Josh Allen personally. This is an absolute unit, even with the snow, even up in Buffalo, even with the damn turnovers. The Ravens were legitimately one catch away from sending this game into overtime. That's how good of a damn team it is. And like I said, maybe if they bolster that wide receiver core, they probably win this game and they probably win a damn Super Bowl. So I would love to see them in the draft go offensive line and go for that wide receivers, you know. But other than that, this is how good they are, man. And I'm impressed with Buffalo by being able to weather the storm, by literally coming in here. Nobody ever thought, while losing Stephon Diggs, losing losing Gabe Davis, that this team was going to be the best team in the AFC East, was going to be the number 2 team in the AFC, that this was going to be the only team to legitimately take down the Patrick Mahomes Chiefs in the regular season. They have defied odds every goddamn place, and I cannot sit here and tell you it has nothing to do with them being my father's team. It's legitimately every time we say they can't, they do. And I hope they can continue to do it. This is absolutely ludicrous. I have no clue how the hell it's happening. You want to talk about culture? You want to talk about buying in? Turns out you got to subtract something greater and take less to get more out of the group. And that's exactly what they did. That's what they've been doing. And I'll tell you, how can you not be impressed with Buffalo? I'll tell you how you're not impressed. You're an AFC East franchise fan. That's not Buffalo. That's the only reason why you're not impressed.
No, I'm not impressed because Josh Allen had a Jalen Hurts passing stat line in the air. Yeah, he had 2 rushing touchdowns, but 10 carries for 20 yards. Jalen Hurts had a better game. We're crapping on Jalen Hurts, but Josh Allen gets a pass because he ran in 2 touchdowns? Nah, man, he didn't play that good. That's why I'm not impressed. It's not because I'm an AFC East fan. It's because the Bills didn't play that good, Mazz. They didn't. I'm sorry. And they still somehow they got lucky enough to win this game. The Ravens were the better team, and they threw it away. That's what happened.
I don't know about that, man. Their defense made plays, and I 110% owe an apology to the running back. And you're right, he's elite. That vision, that shifted gears, that blocking was fantastic. Dude, I'm impressed. Just because Josh Allen, the crown jewel, didn't have the day. And I did feel like he came up in some clutch moments, you know? And yeah, for once, they won a game without Josh having to be Superman. So kudos to them. That's what gives me hope of this team. That's why you want to sit there and tell me you're not impressed with Josh Allen. No problem. But you can't sit there and tell me you're not impressed with Matt Milano. You're not impressed with them punching out a ball and capitalizing on turnovers. You're not impressed with that pass rush, literally rattling Lamar and forcing a fumble on a sack. You cannot sit there and tell me that you just were not impressed with every other facet but Josh Allen. We're talking about being impressed with the Bills. If you're not impressed with Josh, that's fine. The Bills were absolutely impressive, and they 110% punched above their weight class and somehow came away on top of the scorecard.
So I'll be specific. I wasn't impressed with the passing game. I was not. Defense, yeah, I was very impressed. I mean,
you weren't impressed with Shakir? Yards after catch were crazy, bro.
Yards after catch are crazy, but like, that's what I'm saying though. Is like Josh Allen, the Bills. You expect them to be airing it out and throwing it downfield, and they just were not able to do that against Baltimore, who granted is a really good secondary. But it's just, to me, with the Buffalo, I don't know if they have what it takes to beat Kansas City next week. I really don't. I know they beat them in the regular season, but we talked about it after we talked about the Chiefs Texas game. The playoff Chiefs are a hell of a lot different than the regular season Chiefs, and the Bills probably know that better than any other team in the NFL because they've played them the most in the postseason in the last few years. But
I think the difference now is, I mean, you said it, Mazz. James Cook has looked really good. They won. I mean, they got outrushed against Baltimore, but I think they won the battle at the line of scrimmage. I mean, you hold Derrick Henry to 84 yards, that's a win. That's a win. I mean, his over-under heading to the was over 100. Everybody was expecting, hey, Buffalo doesn't have a great run defense. The Ravens have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Like, that's going to be the difference. And they contain them as much as they did. When you watch a guy like Saquon Barkley or Jahmyr Gibbs, this is not slander against Derrick Henry. I want to get out to the forefront of that. But when you watch Saquon and Jahmyr Gibbs this weekend, it seems like every run that they have, they're about to break one out. Saquon did, Jahmyr did. When you watch the Ravens and Derrick Henry, every run, it's like he's getting tackled at the line of scrimmage. He's finding ways to get 4 or 5 yards. I mean, I don't know what his longest run was. His longest run was 17 yards. And they did their best job of containing him. And Buffalo finds ways to win games. They're gonna have to find some way to beat Kansas City. That's gonna be different than how they beat Baltimore.
I will say, dude, that offensive line for the Bills, I was loving it. You guys know I like to, I call it offensive line porn whenever you just see something executed insanely. They were doing a guard pull to a kick out block on a kind of like a waggle action with Josh rolling out to the right or to the left. And that kick out block, for the most part, told you where the play was going, and they literally was taking the guy out at the end and giving Josh some more extra space. But twice I noticed that they actually pulled the opposite way to create some confusion. It was just perfect execution from the big fellas up front, I feel like. And I'll tell you right now, 67 yards never felt so good watching it. No, was it elite? No, but it felt like it came. The thing with the Bills, and even with Josh, like, yes, it wasn't the most exciting thing. I felt like they executed every time it was a big moment that they needed something on both sides of the ball. Even Josh, yes, it wasn't a big throw, but it was enough for the first down to keep the ball moving, right?
Yeah, I suppose. They did convert on key third downs, a couple fourth downs that they went for it. They definitely needed to.
And that was the most violent tush push I've ever seen in my life. He looked like a slingshot just firing right into the line. I don't understand why they didn't do that the next 2 times on the goal line, but nonetheless, that tush push, if they could do that, I think that's a key to beating them. I honestly think they're going to have a better throwing day against Kansas City than they were capable of doing against Baltimore. They just got to worry about that pass rush, but I trust this offensive line.
And I was worried about the kicking coming into this game because both kickers had rough seasons. I mean, to say the least. Justin Tucker was not very good from long distance. Tyler Bass was inconsistent throughout the season, but both of them perfect. 2 for 2 on field goals, 3 for 3 on extra points for Tyler Bass, and 1 for 1 on extra points for Justin Tucker.
I just have to do this right now. Ant, do you own a Mark Andrews jersey?
No, I don't, and I don't plan to ever own a Mark Andrews jersey for the rest of my life.
Come on, dude. That's like the second best tight end that's ever played for you guys.
Who's first?
Shannon Sharp.
Played there for what, like 2 seasons?
I was going to say Dennis Pitta.
Dennis Pitta?
Dennis.
So this is the greatest. This is the greatest tight end that's ever played for you, man. Come on.
Also,
I don't want to
one
talk.
last note on
I don't
this
want to
game.
even mention his
Sorry.
name anymore. Okay, I don't want to mention his name. He doesn't deserve.
You don't want to be.
He doesn't.
disrespectful, I
He
got
doesn't deserve. Any acknowledgement from me. He doesn't deserve
So here's
anything.
my question.
No, I don't.
You're
I
not
don't
mad
care.
at Lamar though. You're not mad at Lamar.
Lamar, despite the
He
too
stepped
early,
up towards the end, but he
despite
started
those 2
hard.
early turnovers, he turned the game around, and you know what? He put a perfect ball on Mark Andrews. I think if Mark Andrews doesn't fumble on that drive, the Ravens go down the field and score.
I'm just sorry that my father just had to nut tap him real quick. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. That's the only thing that I can explain. There's
And Mark
no other
Andrews,
reason in the world why he drops that ball.
Mark Andrews, I was telling Charlie before the show, he's a known playoff disappearing act. In 9 postseason games, he has, 35 catches for like 300 yards and no touchdowns? Like, this is supposed to be your number 1 target for this many years. Lamar's safety blanket. He's supposed to be this guy who's supposed to help the Ravens out in the passing game and get them down the field. And he's just not done it in the playoffs. This is a guy who's, shrinks away in the biggest moments. And as much as, he's done some great things, he's the all-time Ravens touchdown leader. He's had a great career. This one game, for me, has ruined his legacy here in terms of just being an all-time Raven.
He's coming off an injury from last season, right? He still, I feel like, never got back to the greatness that he was before. And I'm sorry, like, yes, he had a bad.
He had 11
performance,
touchdowns this
but
year.
if Lamar does not throw a horrible interception, does not fumble that ball, and they don't get down early in that game, they're never in the situation for him to blow the game like that. So if the quarterback's the most important part, yes, he did pick it up. Yes, he was leading the comeback. And the funniest tweet that I think I've ever seen in my life was somebody literally right before the drive tweeting out, "I cannot wait for Lamar Jackson to score this touchdown, march all the way down the field, and somebody just absolutely screw up on the extra point and just tarnish his legacy." Not ready for the dialogue for that. Hilarious tweet. I'll give out credit there.
I do think
buddy,
Lamar
I'm
deserves.
sorry.
Sorry.
Lamar's got to be better if you're going.
I
You're
agree.
supposed to be elite. You're
I
supposed to
agree.
be the 3-time MVP potentially. You cannot have that game. Everybody criticizes your throwing ability. My brother in Christ, that is one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in the playoffs. And I've seen Dak Prescott force the ball to freaking CeeDee Lamb an entire game and get picked off 3 times for doing it.
I agree. I think Lamar definitely deserves a portion of the blame on this game. I think Mark Andrews deserves, probably a good 60%, 70% of the blame.
50-50 for me.
One part of the game I don't blame. I don't blame the coaching. The coaching was fantastic on Sunday for the Ravens. Their game plan was phenomenal. The only reason why the Ravens got down 21-10 in the first place was their turnovers. And they're giving the Bills the ball in a short field. John Harbaugh's game plan was fantastic. In the third quarter, Todd Monken comes out, and with Derrick Henry and Justice Hill, who had a great game, and Lamar Jackson, they ran the ball down the Bills' throats in that third quarter. And they dominated the line of scrimmage. They were able to get a couple of touchdowns. They were able to get back into the game by running the football down 2 scores. You know how hard that is to do? The defense stepped up in big moments. I got to say, Zach Orr has come alive in the second half of the season as defensive coordinator for the Ravens. I think they did everything they needed to do in the coaching aspect of things to get back into this game. This game falls squarely on player execution problems and turnovers.
What about the 2-point conversion attempt in the third quarter?
On the one that
I thought that was really silly. What they scored? I think it was to make it like it was like 19-21. I think was the yeah. I didn't see the urgency to have to go for 2 there. If they don't, it's 21-20.
I always
it's a whole different game.
Am the proponent of you go for the tie when you have the option.
In the third quarter, though,
I
you know
agree.
what I mean?
I agree with the call. I think you always have to go for at least the tie. You don't want to be down a point, and you don't know how the game's gonna go about. And a field goal still gives you the lead, no matter what. If you kick the extra point or not,
I'm kind of with him. I didn't have any problem with the coaching. I think it's with him. I'm sorry. How are you? One guy has 2 turnovers that are blatantly his fault. One guy has 1 turnover and 1 horrible drop 2-point conversion. How is 60% of the blame on Mark Andrews? It's 50-50 at least. I blame Lamar for putting them in that position in the first place more than anything. And I'll tell you right now, that secondary for Buffalo, shout out them. AJ Epinesa in the middle with Matt Milano, those guys felt like they were on top of everything, dude. They were getting after it. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how you're blaming solely Mark Andrews. Yes, it was an easy play that he messed up, but let's not act like Derrick Henry didn't mess up an easy play. Like, how the hell does he drop that little wheel route? How does Lamar even fumble right there? How does Lamar sail that ball over so badly after you've been criticized constantly for your throwing capability, even though you put up a hell of a stat line?
So Lamar
Like,
said
dude,
after the game in the post-game press conference, Lamar said on that throw, his idea was to look off the safety, had the safety run the opposite direction, and then throw that ball, and hopefully it would be wide open. Lamar didn't look off the safety in that situation. He goes, I didn't do it. I completely misread it, and I
loved his accountability though. I'll give him that.
Lamar's always
I
accountable.
absolutely love.
He never throws guys under the bus.
He took it on the chin, but I'm sorry, bro. Like, yeah, it's on Mark Andrews, sure, but it's more on Lamar Jackson for me personally. I'm sorry.
I think the only reason that the blame is 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever is because the Andrews drop came at the pinnacle of the game. Like, if he drops a 2-point conversion when they go for it in the third quarter, or if they just score a touchdown and go for 2 like earlier in the game and drops it, like, nobody's really gonna like pinpoint that's the reason that they lost. But since it was 27-25, they have the chance to get these 2 points to tie the game, force it to maybe overtime. There's still a minute and a half left, and I think that's something that everybody kind of just throws under the carpet. Josh Allen is easily marching down a minute and a half kick, giving Tyler Bass the field goal range. But the only reason that we're saying Mark Andrews kind of threw this game is because it came at that point where they could have tied it, and that fumble was also in the second half of the game. I mean,
he should have never been in the position to drop that pass is what I'm saying. You know, like the fact that they even had to go for the tie there. On paper, you guys should have destroyed them. I've been saying forever. You guys played down in some games this year. You lost worse games against worse opponents that you should have never have lost to. On paper, the Ravens are exponentially a better team than the Buffalo Bills. And I'm sorry, they played down to their competition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, seeding, yeah, I get you. Seeding matters, but when it comes to playoffs, the record doesn't mean crap except for the home field advantage. And it wasn't even that big of a home field advantage. It just literally came down to execution and taking care of the ball, and the Bills did that. But like I said, shout out Pops.
The nut tap of Mark Andrews.
A nut tap of Mark Andrews, I swear. I would love to ask him if he felt any pain in the groin region on that, because I swear that's the only thing that could have happened. Why are you falling back? Papa Mazz, my buddy texted me, dude, he's watching for the best seat in the house. And I laughed my ass off because anybody that knows my father would not be out in that cold. He's definitely would find a nice comfy seat up there upstairs and was watching that one. And then at some point, somebody was just like, all right, we need a little something. He went, all right, tagging in. Boom, boom.
Well, Mr. Matt Bruchez, thank you so much for coming on the pod, and we loved your takes. You spit some game at us. You went toe to toe with all of us, and it's really diehard, heated debates.
Oh yeah.
But we'll hope to have you back on sometime in the near future, of course. But
Let me
before
know.
before you go, who do you think will be the Saints head coach in 2025?
Well, there's who I think is going to be the head coach and who I want. Well, actually, it's a very complex question because I don't know what I want with the Saints franchise because we are in absolute 5 to 8 win purgatory right now with the roster that we have because it's a good roster. Like the defense is good. It's older, but it's good. Tyrann Mathieu is falling off a bit. Demario Davis is one of the best linebackers in the league. Yeah. And we have a good cornerback room. Losing Marshawn Lattimore obviously hurt, but I think that's going to be the places that we look at in the draft. So I think whoever takes over this franchise as head coach is going to be in a very difficult spot because do you, A, try and trade people away to try and build for the future? B, do you have, or A, B, because do you have that much of a leash to be able to trade people? And then if you don't have success, are you going to get fired after the year? Which is, I think, is the most likely outcome is that whoever we bring on as head coach this offseason is going to get fired next offseason. And so that's why I think we're going to bring in somebody that doesn't deserve it, like Mike Kafka. Why are the Saints interviewing the offense coordinator for the Giants? What are we seeing? What is the vision for that? That is just asking for failure. And so I think that's honestly what's going to happen because the Saints don't want me to be happy. They want to bring in a Giants offense coordinator for zero reason other than to trade people away, to lose a double-digit amount of games and get Arch Manning and Kellen Moore the offseason after.
I'm telling you right now, the perfect move for the Saints. You bring in Mike McCarthy. I'll tell you why.
I'm fine with that.
You bring in Mike McCarthy. You trade away every possible damn asset that could possibly give you success to win games for next season. And you build for the future. You go out the number 1 overall pick. You go get an Arch Manning. Why? Because Mike McCarthy, the only thing that he does good, he is a quarterback whisperer. That kid will develop. You build around that, and then boom, the Saints could have another Drew Brees run in about 4 to 5, maybe 6 years. You got to build for the future for this right now. The talent is outdated. It's the old model. It's good enough to give you a performance, but buddy, this is 2 years in a row. You told me I was crazy. The Bucks are running the NFC South.
I agree. I'm on your side.
Are out here, baby. This is what it's about. You told me Baker wasn't good enough. You told me the Bucks weren't gonna do it. This is 2 years in a row. You're lucky we didn't put Chipotle on it 2 years in a row. I got you the first year. You made up for it with giving me a ride, and I appreciate the hell out of you. But brother, please, for the love of God, understand. Derek Carr ain't the guy. This franchise ain't what it used to be, and there ain't nobody filling the shoes of Sean Payton. The only person that is available right now that could possibly give you hope. I can't even believe it because I wanted him out for so long because I don't need quarterback development. I need somebody that can manage the goddamn locker room, but you need quarterback development in the worst way possible right now, and it's Mike McCarthy.
No, I completely agree. Mike McCarthy is my number 1 choice. The only thing I'm scared of is that if we bring in Mike McCarthy and he fails this year, are we going to fire him and not give him long enough leave? I understand that, but the Saints organization is awful.
No, you're right. Well, you know what? That's what happens when your franchise is founded as literally the reason why the NFL and AFL broke antitrust law. All right, the reason why you guys are even a franchise is absolute shenanigans. I'll give you the history of that off camera down the line because I'll tell you there was some political shenanigans. There was absolute just buffoonery going on when it comes to the American workers known as the NFL players just getting screwed out of money from 2 competing leagues outbidding each other. This is why this is happening. I'm sorry, but Mike McCarthy could be actually the light of beam that you need for the future.
Yeah, but we're in a tough spot because Mike McCarthy has to get along with Mickey Loomis because apparently if the head coach is requesting a new GM, they're not going to get hired. That's what Aaron Glenn wanted. Aaron Glenn requested that we part ways with Mickey Loomis to go a different direction to GM, and the Saints said, all right, we're not going to want you anymore. So Mike McCarthy hopefully has a good relationship with Mickey Loomis, maybe, or we're not going to be able to sign him, which is why I think the most likely outcome is we're going to sign a head coach that just wants to be a head coach, doesn't have these demands and doesn't have the pedigree to be able to wish for these things like Aaron Glenn wanted it. I don't know if Anthony Weaver is going to request a new GM or something, or like Mike Kafka, which is why I think we're going to go with one of those guys, and it's just going to end in misery.
Well, I will say this. If you can get along with Jerry Jones for 5 seasons, you can get along with anybody. So you never know. I mean, the only reason why Mike dipped is because they couldn't agree on the length of the contract. I think Jerry wanted a short-term contract and Mike wanted some security. And let's not forget, the other rumor was going to be Chicago, but that's off the board, so his leverage is kind of gone. I honestly think that they need to go all in on Big Mike.
I'm fine with that.
Mike McCarthy was the Saints OC from 2000 to 2004, so that's when him and Mickey Loomis crossed paths. So maybe they do have some ties, a former relationship. Who knows?
We'll see.
Matt, once again, thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Well,
and I'll hopefully be back soon.
For sure. Go Bucks.
Who dat? And real quick before I go, I don't know if you guys are going to touch on this later. The Rockets are a top 3 team in the league. So
wow.
I'll leave off on that.
I'll tell you right now, fellas, it's absolutely Ime Udoka. He's right. Ime Udoka is that guy. But you know what? We're going to find out who's going to be the guy in Chicago right now with the new Ben Johnson hiring. I got to be honest, I thought the Raiders had him on lock. I'm a little surprised by this. I understand wanting to go coach Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze and you know, an offense that is in hell right now. It's not even purgatory. It's literally hell for what we thought it was going to be. That offensive line, there's Swiss cheese, and then there's just non-existent. They are non-existent, but the defense, pretty damn good.
Has
so,
pieces.
You know, I think that, you know, with the right moves, he could get this going pretty fast, but I really, really thought the Raiders had their guy on lock. I think this guy's a gem. I wonder if it's really going to live up to the hype, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to just ordain him as the next, you know, Sean McVay or Matt LaFleur or name any of these hotshot young play callers because, I mean, while it's going to be important that he's pressing all the right buttons for Caleb and his development, I'm not 100% sold on his leadership abilities. I mean, he was there in Detroit with Dan Campbell, who by all accounts is one of the greatest leaders in football right now. I want to see how he's going to be able to lead a team, not just in terms of offensive play calling, because there's more to being a head coach than that. You know what I mean? I think there's some sort of happy medium here where he's either going to be, you know, I don't know. The jury's out for me on Ben Johnson. I'm not sure.
Playing college football as much as I have, right? You got your 3 archetypes. You got your motivators, Dan Campbell. You got your recruiters, you know, San Francisco 49ers, just in their GM, just bringing in whatever talent that they need. And then you have tacticians. This is what Ben Johnson is. He needs to just buy in to the X's and O's and just work on out-scheming guys. You don't need to be Dan Campbell. You don't need that rah-rah stuff. You literally need to win everybody's respect with, I'm so much smarter than you when it comes to X's and O's. You're seeing Kevin O'Connell have success with this, right? We've seen Shanahan have success with this. This is what this guy is. We've seen McVay have success with this, even though he's got a little bit of that firecracker into him. But, like, I feel like I don't see Matt LaFleur getting that animated. I don't see Kevin O'Connell getting that animated.
I don't know,
right?
man. LaFleur during that playoff game against Philly, he was getting in guys' faces.
Sure, and that's the development of him, but that's not what the first season needs to be. You need to win them over with the X's and O's, and that's what I want to see from him. Just come out there and just absolutely overhaul that offense, and that's how guys are going to buy in. Show that Caleb can be the Lamborghini that's been in the garage and thrown into a couple of car wrecks, but you were able to repair it, you know?
Well, this was Caleb's guy. Caleb was asking for Ben Johnson since the moment that head coach vacancy opened up. And you saw that one video where like the guys prank called Caleb and said it was Ben Johnson. I just got hired, and Caleb actually was like, "Cool, let's get to work." Like Caleb, this is what Caleb wanted. Like,
It's pretty funny.
And honestly, like you could tell, like Ben Johnson is a very smart offensive mind, and he got the Lions to new heights that they had never reached in their franchise history. So I love this hire for the Bears, because the Bears, the one thing that they've never had in their 105-year existence has been an offense. It's crazy how they've gone this long without a great all-time offense. And Ben Johnson, I think, gives you the best chances to develop not only Caleb, but you have Rome Odunze, like you mentioned, Keenan Allen another couple of years, DJ Moore. Like, this team is talented from top to bottom on the offensive end. You build up this offensive line. I think this year in the draft, offensive line should be the number one focus for the Bears. They should get what pick do they have? They have 6?
9 or 10, I think.
Oh, really? Okay, 9.
Yeah.
You could probably get the second.
You can get a good offensive
tackle
or guard there. Yeah, need the tackle, but you get a nice piece on offense at that pick.
Absolutely.
On the line.
And then I think maybe first round, second round, maybe even third round. You go 3-0 linemen in the top 3 rounds. That's what the Bears should really be focusing on, because the defense is not a problem either. I don't think their defense is truly horrible. Like, they got some good pieces on that end. But I think if you invest in the first 3 rounds of this draft solely on offensive linemen, and then maybe you bring in a few veteran and key pieces here, you can rehaul this offensive line in one offseason if you're Chicago.
Yeah.
That's the focus, and I think that needs to be the focus. Where else do you need it? You have a good wide receiving core. Keenan Allen, even though I love the addition to it, it didn't get to the start that I want. Still proved, hey, I can still be that veteran leader. You got Rome Odunze. Of course, you have DJ Moore. Like, they have DeAndre Swift there. All they really need is offensive line. If I'm them, my first 3 picks minimum are bringing in just new offensive line faces.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that one of the big things for them would be, of course, addressing the offensive line. I mean, draft absolutely for long-term building, but they definitely would want to pick up a guy who they're in free agency who they can plug and play immediately, and that's Trey Smith, who's plays guard for the Chiefs. He's going to be a free agent. I think a lot of teams are going to be trying to sign him away from Kansas City. But if I'm the Bears, I'm lining up at the first door.
The Brinks truck, baby.
Exactly. Because he would stabilize the spot in your offensive line, which would be so important, because that's exactly what they need.
Yeah, you can invest. Because right now, how much money do they pay? They're not paying Caleb anything because he's on a rookie contract.
Nope.
Are they paying Swift?
Dunes is on a rookie
Swift's
contract.
getting paid, what, like $4 million, $5 million?
Yeah, not much. Not much.
Like, Keenan Allen's probably the only one who, and DJ Moore are the only ones who are really getting money right now. On the defensive end, they have nobody. Like, they have
they have a lot of money tied up in Tremaine Edmonds, of all people. But
well, he's not
that's besides the point.
He's not a bad.
Not terrible,
but right. Even with Keenan Allen, like, I'm pretty sure there's only 1 year left on that deal anyway, so you could potentially trade that up in the offseason if you want to just go younger immediately. Like, they have moves to made if they need to free it up, but they have money to work with. So it just all depends on what direction that they want to go in. And I'm sorry, screw next season. You need to be building for the future. You need to look at this not every team is capable of bringing in a brand new head coach and building back up the empire in one offseason like we just seen the Washington Commanders do. But the pieces were already there for them to do that. And I think we could say a similar situation, but they should be focusing in the next 2 to 3 window for me on when they want to hit greatness. You think it's next season?
You have Caleb on a rookie deal for how many seasons? You have to invest this year. No, but you can pick up his fifth. But once you pick up his 5th-year option, that's going to be like 25, 30 mil. The 5th-year option is what. I understand that. You'll really only have him on 3 years on like a true rookie contract.
I don't think they need to be great this next season for me is all I'm saying.
But then you're shortening your window. If you invest in offensive line this offseason and really rebuild this team, you could overhaul this team in one offseason. You could absolutely do it if you're a Chicago Bears GM. I
just don't know if I trust them with Detroit and Minnesota there. I think I got to give them a little more leeway for me personally. I hear what you're saying, and I don't think you're completely wrong. I just think that they should not be getting caught up in we need to fix this right this second. Trust the process and lay down the steps in order, and I really think that we could see them be dominant for the first time since the 80s?
Yeah.
Jay Cutler.
Still In the Chicago Bears' entire franchise, they have never had a 4,000-yard passer still to this day.
And they're the
Well,
oldest
Taylor said
franchise
that
in the
the
NFL.
punter wasn't going to be freaking used, but here we have it. The guy punted more than they would have ever liked him to. He might have punted more than Caleb through third down attempts, completions.
You think about that, like they never had a quarterback in their like franchise history surpass 20,000 career passing yards, like in their franchise history, which is the oldest franchise.
Who's their all-time guy? Jay Cutler.
Yeah, it's Jay
Is
Cutler.
that their passing leader?
That's their or him
Mr.
or Rex
Concussion,
Grossman.
respectfully.
I think it's Rex Grossman maybe.
No.
How did George Halas hold a job for like 50 years?
Because he owned the team. That's why.
Crazy.
So here's my question:
By the way, real quick, Jay Cutler, 23,400 yards, all-time Chicago Bears passing yards leader.
Okay.
I figured. That's not who I want to be my guy. I'm sorry. That is the definition of middle-of-the-pack quarterback.
And Sid Luckman's number 2 with 14,000 yards.
Sid Luckman! Sid Luckman!
He played from 1939 to 1950. He's their second.
Oh, good God, that is horrible. 1950 guy.
Like, it's so
they weren't
hard.
even throwing the ball then.
How do you strike out on quarterback that many times? Like I get the Jets.
the
The Jets have struck gold every once in a while for like a couple seasons. Yeah. Like how do the Bears consistently just have the worst quarterback in the league for 100 years?
I'll tell you right now, you literally bring in this top pick. It's the same thing with the Browns. You bring in this top draft pick quarterback, and you never, ever, ever get anything else around it. It's like, yeah, the quarterback's going to save us. No. There's pieces to this. You got to protect them. You got to get a run game going so that you can ease some pressure off them. You really could use a good defense so that you can at least stay in games even when they're struggling. And you get some nice offensive weapons so that this guy can throw to. When's the last time they've had a dominant tight end? Cole Kmet, he's okay, but he ain't dominant.
Jimmy Graham.
They need a safety blanket when it comes down to the end of the day, so... Even Jimmy Graham was, he was good, but he wasn't dominant, You got to get a nice safety blanket. You need to get like a Tony Romo, Jason Witten kind of guy in there for him,
I think Cole Kmet could be that. I think he's talented.
Here's my question, and I know none of you are going to give a damn about this, but I am so invested in this guy. What's next for Thomas Brown? I mean, I've never seen a guy get promoted that fast in my life.
This is actually a great transition because we'll move on to the next Lions coordinator who got hired.
I know what you're saying right now. That's what you want.
No, I'm not that I want it, but it's been rumored that Aaron Glenn's looking at Thomas Brown for a role on his offensive staff. So, Aaron Glenn, Lions DC, now the head coach of the New York Jets. It's all coming full circle. He started his post-playing career as a scout for the Jets, and now here he comes as the head coach, as the guy who's being tasked to turn this thing around and flip the culture in one of the worst locker rooms in the NFL.
Scale of 1 to 10, how good do you trust it?
I'm at an 8, honestly.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, he wasn't my number one option for the head coach spot. I was a huge fan of Josh McCown. At first I was a big fan of Brian Flores, but I kind of wavered on that towards the end. But Aaron Glenn is a guy who played here for 6 years, before Darrelle Revis was considered the best cornerback in franchise history. I'm real excited about Aaron Glenn. He is everything. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I did a quick Instagram video just as the news broke. He is what Robert Saleh was supposed to be. Robert Saleh was supposed to be a leader, a CEO type coach, a guy who came in saying all gas, no brake, and was the exact opposite of all those things. They were conservative as hell. All 4 years, him as head coach here. He may have been a leader, but he was buddy with all his players, and he wanted them all to love him. They didn't always necessarily respect him. You know what I mean? He didn't hold guys accountable. He let the stars kind of run things, cough, cough, Aaron Rodgers. He let him do what he wanted to do. And albeit they sold their soul to him to try and win games, didn't work, whatever. But Aaron Glenn is going to be the guy to get in your face, tell you where you messed up, and tell you what to do to fix it and make it better. And I think this guy's going to bring accountability back to the team. It's obvious who is going to be, the head honcho at the Jets because they're hiring the head coach first and the GM second. Aaron Glenn is going to be the face of the franchise. And I couldn't be more excited about it, I'll be honest.
I think that's your problem right there, and that the Jets have still shown, though. Like, I'm high on him if they truly buy into him. That's why I'm at an 8 out of a 10 with you. I think that's the perfect number on him. My problem is the Jets. Who's going to be the GM? Did the GM even want him in there? Is that going to be turmoil the second that you got there? Because I didn't get my guy. And speaking of not getting their guy, are they rocking with Aaron Rodgers? Because quite honestly, nothing is going to change if you were going to leave him with the same power and position. This is just like leaving in your least favorite politician into power in D.C. and expecting things to change. The new guard could take over, and there is stuff to work with. I do not blame Robert Saleh for the Jets' misfortunes the way that I blame the front office, the way that I blame Aaron Rodgers, the way that I blame you're a head coach and you don't even have control of the moves on your team. Literally, he had no input whatsoever on the offense ever since Rodgers walked into the door. And yes, they drafted Zach Wilson, and there was nothing to work with. I mean, come on, man. This is a team who is constantly bringing in quarterbacks, and there's nothing to work with. Look at Sam Darnold, look at Zach Wilson. And then when you finally have a quarterback that there's something to work with, he's a disgruntled little bastard who just absolutely hates everything. And I know I'm being harsh on that, but let's be honest. Ever since he walked into that place, he has just been kind of a sourpuss. I felt like I want to be here, but I want to be here because they're letting me do whatever I want. However, and we all thought that was going to be a good idea, and we're just wrong. There's eggs on all of our faces, mine especially, right? You got to let the head coach be the guy, and he needs to have support of the GM, and we don't even know who that's going to be. I hope it works out. I really think that they made a solid choice for their head coach. Why wouldn't you? I also would have liked Brian Flores, but I know Ant's not high on that. I'm Brian Flores' guy. However, I think that this could be the right guy, but nothing is going to change unless you go, we are just going to chop the head off and put a new one on there. The snake is still very much dangerous, so it needs to chop the head off first.
So, Mazz, here's the thing: is the fact that they hired Glenn first means that he's higher in the pecking order than the GM. He is going to be sitting in on these interviews with the candidates that the Jets have already liked, and he's going to have a lot of input on who it's going to be. And the fact that his part of his career post playing days started out in the world of scouting and looking at college talent and working his way up through there before becoming a coach. That says to me that he's going to have a lot of hands in things like that in terms of drafts and finding players in the pro market. And I honestly am more comfortable with him doing that than a guy like Lance Newmark, who was rumored to be the Jets GM and interviewed the same day that Glenn came back for his second interview. I trust Glenn more than I trust any of these incoming GM candidates. And I think with the Jets hiring him before that hiring that GM, it says the same thing.
I think this was the best hire that the Jets could have made, and I told you this, Charlie, a few weeks ago. I said this is the number one. I don't think you guys should be looking in any other direction unless it's Ben Johnson potentially. I think Aaron Glenn. You saw what he did in Detroit. That team was on its practice squad corners, and I get it. They just got blown out in the divisional round, but they were still competing. They were holding the Vikings to 3 red zone stops in their final game, week 18. Like, that team was on its last legs, and Aaron Glenn was getting the best out of those players. And you guys say this guy's going to be a natural leader. I think he's going to come to this building day one, and he's going to get this team in line. I think this was the best hire you guys could have made. I know you liked Vrabel, and you wanted Vrabel, and Vrabel was the best option, but honestly, I think Aaron Glenn brings a fresh perspective and new blood and a new sensibility, because you said he's a Jet. He knows this system. He was there when they were in their last ever playoff appearance, right? Like, this is a guy who's seen the Jets at their absolute best before years of turmoil. I think he comes into this building. I think he brings a new culture. I think now you get to start over with a new quarterback and a new system, and he already is inheriting a very good defensive roster. I like Aaron Glenn. I think this is going to be a home run of a pick for the Jets.
You still got to get Aaron Rodgers out of the building, though. There hasn't.
So
isn't there yet.
What if Glenn? Okay, so let's say he doesn't retire. Let's say Glenn says, "Hey, my first year here in New York, I want to try and win some games to kickstart the rebuild." Well, what if he wants to keep Rodgers? That's a non-starter for you guys. That's an
No, I'm not
absolute
saying
no.
that. It's just he's got to buy in. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
You need, like, we're not doing it your way. Your way went absolutely nowhere. We undermined people that we had no business of undermining. We should have just cut them off the ship before we even set sail if we were going to completely do it this way, and they didn't. So now if you're going to be here, you're more than capable of being a starter. You're a 4-time MVP. Yes, the arm strength isn't there like it used to be, but statistically speaking, it was not a bad year for him. It's just a lot of those stats came when they were already losing the damn game and there was no hope of winning it, right? So I think now, if he wants to buy in, sure, you could be along for the ride for, a season, 2 max, but eventually we are going in a new direction. We are rebuilding things here. And hey, maybe we can try to capitalize on this championship window that we all thought was there. But it all starts, is Aaron going to change the ways? And I just don't trust him to do that, to be honest with you.
If he does, I mean, and he did say throughout the season last year that he would be willing to take a pay cut, mentor a rookie that they would draft. Yep. And if he wasn't lying, if he was telling the truth, then that sounds absolutely fantastic. But you're right, Mazz. If he doesn't, he has to understand if he's coming back here, it's not his show, it's Aaron Glenn's show, and he's got to fall in line.
And I think the best thing that they could do is to rebrand, to let everybody know that it's a new guard and get us a better logo, like I said. And
the current one's fine.
Does anybody hear that? Does anybody hear that? I'm hearing Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart in a 3rd to 4th round. Anybody else?
Jackson Dart would be. I'd love that.
They have Jordan Travis just sitting there.
Dude,
he's not even back from injury yet. He's still injured.
Yeah, he basically redshirted his first year in the league.
Yeah,
so
right,
I mean,
so he's got to sit. It's like JJ.
I don't know, dude. That was a gruesome injury. Like, the fact that he's still not healthy, like, that scares me personally. Now, if they hit in this, what was that, 7th round they drafted him?
Fifth or 6th.
Thank you. So, if they hit on that later round, kudos to you. That's awesome. However, there's nothing wrong with a little competition to try to bolster the ranks. I think you absolutely need to go quarterback in that 3rd to 4th round. I think Dart, I still kind of like Ewers. You got to just bring in some pressure there. A new face, just something to work with. You do not enter this without having a legitimate backup.
If you don't have a franchise quarterback,
have a legitimate backup. I'm sorry about that, but he's not the guy for the future. He's just a guy that could come in and win you some games. You need to potentially get this what we think could be the guy for the future down the road.
If you're a team that doesn't have a franchise quarterback, you should always be throwing darts in the draft. Like always be taking a shot in the 3rd round for like Dak was a 3rd round pick and he turned out to be a franchise 4th round pick, even more so. Brock Purdy in the 7th round. I mean,
Mr. Irrelevant.
Brady.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're forgetting
Brady.
Tom Brady. I feel like there's one I'm forgetting right now that's so easy.
Even Lamar Jackson was a bottom 1st round pick. How many teams passed on Lamar Jackson that are looking back on it and went, Jesus?
The Arizona Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen.
But they immediately went after Kyler Murray, and it was the right move to make because they were willing to throw the dart.
But would you rather have Kyler Murray or would you rather have Lamar Jackson?
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. You're right. You're right. But moving on from Josh Rosen, who I felt always got the short end of the stick, was the right move, though. And it's because they threw the dart. Don't get me wrong. You got to give a guy time to develop. But if you see that there is something that much better, then I understand why you're taking the gamble. But, hey, when you miss, we're going to say that you missed. And when you hit, we're going to say that you hit. It's just the fact of the matter. If I mess up and I said something wrong, I'm going to get roasted in the comments, even though when I get roasted, I'm still freaking right. But that's just, I'm not over the Derrick Henry slander. But that's just me. We'll move on. But, fellas, I'll tell you, the Jets, I think are coming. I don't know when. It cannot be this bad for this long. I do not believe the Jets are going to continue to the Jets. I might be absolutely wrong and biting my words by week 2 of next season, but I honestly believe that there is truly, potentially, a new guard, a new time in New York for Gangrene. However, I could be completely wrong.
Prior to Robert Saleh and Adam Gase, every single first-time Jets head coach had a winning season in their first year at the helm. So,
is that all you want?
Just I'd like a winning season. If we can make a wild card, dude, I'd be ecstatic.
So you're off on the tank for Arch Manning train like the Saints are going to be on?
No. There's too much talent on this roster to actually tank.
No, you're right. Well, Not necessarily. I mean, anything could go astray with the Jets, but
All right.
you know.
Listen, we'll
Trade up for
keep it
Cam
moving
Ward
to
this
us.
year. Why not?
Listen, I'll tell you
Maybe.
right now, the best thing that the Johnsons could do, you got your head coach, go get your GM, hands off. Let them do their job.
Dude, that's the thing though, is you say that and they do. They gave Joe Douglas 5 years before they started getting hands on. They gave Robert Saleh 3 years
because of Madden ratings, because the Sun didn't want it. How is that hands off? No, don't get me wrong. They're not Jerry Jones, where I got to touch everything and I got to be in control of everything. And please, Lord, Elon Musk, buy the damn Cowboys and do what you do to every company. Put competent people in there and leave them the frig alone. But listen, they're still touching buttons that they should not be touching. Stay the hell out of the organization.
It goes back to my original point: is they gave Joe Douglas 5 years of unlimited control until Woody Johnson was like, "Hey, this isn't working. I'm stepping in, and I'm gonna start having some bigger input on these decisions."
Well, he messed up too, apparently.
Okay, well, listen, man. If Joe Douglas isn't a bad GM, maybe he's still making his own decisions right now.
I don't even know if he's like the worst GM. I know the record was horrible, but listen, dude, he hit on some gems in the draft.
He had one good draft.
What,
I know, but that was a really good
draft.
Yeah.
That one draft was Sauce, Garrett, Jermaine Johnson, Brees Hall. Every other draft, if you pull them up, terrible.
Hey, Mekhi Becton's looking really good.
Honestly, that draft might be one of the best drafts of the last 5 years in any NFL team.
Yeah, well, Mekhi Becton never would refuse to move from tackle, and for some reason goes down to Philly and says, "Yeah, I'll play guard, sure."
Because if you weren't going to play guard, you weren't going to be in the league anymore, buddy. That's how bad.
Something about guys who go to Philly or come from Philly to the Jets or leave the Jets to go to the Philly, they don't ever pan out for the Jets. It's always a beneficial thing for the Eagles.
It's always a beneficial for the Eagles. You guys need to stay away from the Eagles. You're just giving them gems, and they're giving you back coal.
Bryce Huff. He was fantastic on the Jets, and he was awful this year for the Eagles. So
that's happened one time.
Son
got you on like 3 of them.
Son
got you on like 3 of them.
Who are the other 3?
Mekhi Becton,
Hassan Reddick, and all right, maybe it's 2 for 1. You might be right.
There we go.
Stay away from the Eagles, buddy.
Staying away.
But you know who needs to not stay away? We got some openings right now.
Yeah, so we do.
And you know what? I'm going to talk with the ugliest one possible. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
So how funny is it? Remember that the week they fired Doug Peterson and they're on the Zoom call and Shad Khan's, I won't hesitate. I won't hesitate to fire this guy if I miss out on any head coach opportunities. Hey, Shad. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. You lost out on Liam Cohen because you didn't fire Trent Baalke, who would have been a fantastic head coaching candidate for you guys. And because Trent Baalke was in place, you couldn't land him. He goes back to the Bucs on a contract extension. You already lost out on all the best candidates. Where do you go from here? You're starting your GM search 2 weeks late.
Didn't the Bucs assistant just go to the Raiders too?
Yeah, Spy Tech.
Mm-hmm.
That Brady connection.
Yep. I'll tell you right now. I don't know where they go for GM, but I'll tell you where they're going for head coach. Bobby Saleh is going to get a second chance.
I have it written down here.
He's going to change the culture of Jacksonville. A defense is going to be dominant in Jacksonville for the first time since Blake Bortles was playing. All right, I'm telling you right now, they're not winning no championship, but the defense is going to be good, and the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise is going to be happy with just some level of competing. You know, maybe they move on from Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. Maybe they get some draft competition. I have no clue what the hell is going on. I firmly believe, though, Bobby Saleh is coming, and that defense is going to be pretty damn good.
I wrote a prediction for all the remaining head coach openings, and yeah, Robert Saleh is my head coach prediction for the Jaguars because he has got ties there. He was a linebackers coach for, I want to say, like 3-4 years there back in the early 2010s, and he obviously has connections with the Khan family. So yeah, I mean, I worry about who the OC is going to be. Is it going to be Todd Downing? Is it going to be Nate Hackett? I mean, that would be a disaster. But yeah, sure, the defense is going to be better. The culture improving. Culture will change. Culture improve.
I think so. Your culture improved under Bobby Saleh. You don't think so?
Mazz, so like when you say like it improved, yeah, everybody was happier. but there's no accountability under Robert Saleh. He was the excuse maker with the Jets. Whenever something went wrong, he always had an excuse. But the thing is, Mazz, the best head coaches, even when they know it's not their fault, they still take their accountability. We just played the Dan Campbell clip from an hour ago. I don't blame Dan Campbell for that loss to the Commanders, not 100%. But he anyway after the game still got up on that podium and said, "This is on me. This is my fault." That's not Robert Saleh. It's just not.
No, it's not, dude. I mean, I literally saw that guy throw Zach Wilson under the bus, even at times where it wasn't even on Zach Wilson's fault. So, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he might be that guy. He might be Bags, dude. You're a great DC, but maybe you're just not the guy, you know? But I do believe that he's going to be the next head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Anthony Cafone, how do you feel?
I probably don't see Saleh getting another head coaching gig right away. Like he's probably got to take the Dan Quinn route of go back, be a DC for a couple more years, dominate again, and then get another head coaching job. I don't see them going right back to Robert Saleh after what just happened in New York, the clown show that was going on. But I do think Robert Saleh, he might be a guy like a Todd Bowles. You know, he fails his first time. Maybe gets another opportunity, and then
first time around with the Jets.
Yeah, first time around with the Jets, and then comes around and becomes a good head coach. I think Robert Saleh is going to go back to being a DC for Jacksonville. I feel like this is going to be a team that goes very unconventional when it comes to picking their next head coach. Like, remember when Detroit picked Dan Campbell? We were all like, "What? Who is this guy? What are they? They're picking a tight ends coach? What?" But it ended up working out for him. I think Jacksonville is going to go a little unconventional on this head coaching pick. I don't think they're gonna go with like the sexy option. Like right now, who's the Tampa Bay OC? Cohen, McCown, like all these guys.
Well, so
they're not gonna go with the sexy option.
He was the favorite to land the job, but allegedly he was like, Trent Baalke's still here, I'm out. And Tampa Bay gave him a big deal, a big extension with some pretty big money to keep him around because I think he's going to be the eventual Todd Bowles replacement, but they can't do that right now, obviously.
You're absolutely right there, and I think that they're still kind of pissed that the original offensive coordinator ended up going to Carolina, you know, because he was a big part of their success too. And it is stated right now that Robert Saleh apparently has, like, not a complete blank check, but a very hefty offer from San Francisco to come back and be their DC, so I wouldn't be surprised, but I think he wants to prove that he can be the guy. And who is your pick for Jacksonville unconventionally?
I think they go very unconventional. I think they pick maybe a college coach.
Oh.
Maybe Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame.
Oh.
I don't think he's going anywhere.
If he didn't want to leave for Chicago, I don't think because that's not even that bad of a move for his family. I mean, I know, you know, Florida is much nicer weather. I don't know if he's going to necessarily want to leave. Call me absolutely crazy. I don't know why I'm just thinking this. However, there's a guy in Texas that I feel like is going to make the jump a little prematurely. And I think it's gonna. I think it could be Jacksonville. That just screams Jacksonville to me.
Texas just gave him a 7-year extension.
Sark just signed an extension this past week.
Yeah. And I'm an idiot, and I'll shut the hell up right now. I missed that extension. Sorry, guys, been dealing with a lot lately.
I just think Marcus Freeman he's young. He's got that fire. Notre Dame guys bought in this year, right? Like after that opening loss to Northern Illinois, we're like, "Oh, Notre Dame's toast. I mean, we're not going to give them any chance." And they went all the way to the freaking national championship game. I mean, and they almost came back in that game too. Like I think Marcus Freeman, like he's too good to be sitting away in college there, man. He has NFL written all over him. And I think Jacksonville should open up the piggy bank and give him a chance.
I think eventually he'll make that jump. After a national championship berth, they're getting this massive injection of money because they're not sharing with anybody. They're gonna be getting a lot of players this year in the portal. I think at least a year or two more at Notre Dame. Then he's gonna start taking some interviews around the NFL.
You know what it is? He's very excited that my man Nolan James is going to be in his running back room next year, you know, as well as Elijah Burst in the wide receiver room. So he just had to see what the New Jersey boys had to go.
Yo, shout out to Paul.
Guys, I honestly feel I'm going at the risk of sounding like another schmuck. I apologize for the Texas name thrown out there. Is there any chance that the most criticized man in college football gets a shot at the next level after coming off a natty?
Ryan Day?
Yep.
Nah.
Ryan Day's gonna be at Ohio State till he retires.
You think?
Yeah.
Or gets fired. One of the
Gets
two.
Fired. Probably fired.
Fired next year for not being able to live up to expectations of being national champions.
Hey, listen, Nick Saban said that you guys need to stop this. It's hurting recruiting right now.
Who? Who's hurting recruiting?
Anybody that is an Ohio State fan and criticizes Ryan Day.
That hurts recruiting, wanting a better coach. I mean, they won a national championship. I can't even criticize them.
Yeah, I know. That's it. Yeah, the jokes are short-lived until next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next opening. The Cowboys currently hiring after moving off of Mike McCarthy. The current favorite to land the job, Brian Schottenheimer, who's been a longtime NFL assistant. We were talking about it before the show. I mean, in between, I think he spent some time in Seattle, but he was the Jets OC during those AFC Championship game runs in 2010 or 9 and 10. He was the Rams offensive coordinator. He was the Seahawks offensive coordinator, and then now here he is, Dallas Cowboys OC the last 2 years. Could potentially get the head coaching job. Mazz, you okay?
No. No, I'm not. I just don't understand this franchise. I don't understand. Okay, let's just go through the timeline, right? We have Mike McCarthy. Kellen Moore emerges as a star at offensive coordinator, but then they scapegoat his ass and send him out of the way after they had the number one offense in the league. And then Mike McCarthy comes back the next year, and again, they're the number one offense in the damn league. And now we've refused. We thought we were getting Dion, but apparently it seems that they don't want to pay the $10 million buyout option for him to leave Colorado. I don't even believe a phone call has been made to Bill Belichick, even though he has not officially signed the contract with North Carolina and is operating as if he's not leaving North Carolina. Jerry, how do the fuck do you not go down there and just throw everything at him? Because there is nothing else available that is going to correct this ship in one season, and this literally is the championship window. I mean, you miss out with this group. Are you freaking kidding me? They are quite you build up the offensive line, you bring in some defensive depth, that's all you got to do, and bring in, for the love of God, please bring in a wide receiver to draft a running back. I know I'm asking for a lot, but there is a path, and there is quite literally the guys here right now. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons. You move on from some veterans and you save money on their contracts. You bring in new models to replace them. They need a true leader, a guy with proven success. They literally the foundation's there. It just needs some paint on the walls, okay? It literally just needs somebody that can lead a group of veterans right here, right now. We don't need development like that. What we need is somebody to please take control of the utter chaos. There's no discipline. There's a owner that thinks he knows it all, but quite honestly, you haven't done shit since Jimmy Johnson, so that tells me it was Jimmy. You're great at bringing in talent. You're not great at putting them in the position to succeed. You kept Jason Garrett around for far too many years. You hired Wade Phillips. What the frig is wrong with you? You couldn't even come to a contract extension with the guy who you said you liked. You probably liked him because he's never fought back on you until it was time to know, I don't want to take the short-term deal. I want some damn security. Buddy, I don't know how to tell you this. We haven't won since the 90s. I've never been around when they won. It was literally 2 years before I was born. The only thing that has been constant, my friend, is you and your fingerprints all over the goddamn place. You want to draft the guys? That's freaking great. You want the limelight? I'll tell you how to get it. You bring in a fuck alone. That's the only way. So help me God. You hire the kid who literally is going to replace the guy who literally proved I didn't need the last offense coordinator. It's literally been me for this offense. You have literally lost your damn mind. And so help me God, he works out and we win a championship, I will legitimately eat an entire piece of paper.
Here's what I gotta ask. I gotta ask this. As head coaching candidate, you look at the Cowboys situation. You see Dak, you see CD, you see all this great talent across the board. But is a part of you like, I don't want to take this job because I know Jerry is just an idiot and is just going to sabotage me almost at every turn. So like, there's that. Like, do you want to take the Cowboys job or do you not want to take the Cowboys job? Like, I feel like these high end candidates, like who like Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, these guys who kind of have a choice. They don't want to change Dallas. They don't want to change. They don't want to change Dallas.
But guys, like the fact that Dion wanted to be there, I firmly believe Dion wants to be there. It's just, hey, the money's got to line up. I literally have whatever I want at Colorado right now. It literally has to be worth me coming, right? And I do believe that Jerry is the obstacle. I do believe that Jerry needs to put the ego away from the side. I'm not even asking for a GM. I would love a GM. I honestly would love a GM. But I'm not even asking for that. I'm just asking you to go out and get an experienced coach. I'll take old man Pete Carroll just to see what happens for a year. I don't want some new young up-and-comer. He's not going to be able to withstand the pressure of you because you're that big of a pain in the ass. It needs to be experience. It needs to be a guy who wants to win. The only guy that I'm willing to roll the dice with is Brian Flores, because Brian Flores has already dealt with a pain-in-the-ass owner when he was down in Miami, and he's a guy who wants to win. Literally, the guy got fired for wanting to win, all right? That's the only guy that I see out there right now amongst the current coordinators that I think that you bring in to even give a shot. Otherwise, for the love of God, go get Dion, go get Bill. Nothing else makes sense. It just does not. I'm sorry. Kellen Moore does not make sense. The offensive coordinator getting promoted does not make sense. None of this makes sense.
So you touched on it. In order to be the Cowboys head coach, you got to have some sort of tie to the Jones family, because you look at Jason Garrett, of course, was there for a long time. Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy was an outside
high school coach. I will lose my mind.
Mike McCarthy was an outside guy, but obviously, of course, they hit it off during that first initial interview. That was pretty cool. But yeah, it just kind of feels like, for me, my prediction is Kellen Moore. I think they're going to wait for him for the Eagles to either bounce out of the playoffs or win the Super Bowl or whatnot, and then they'll bring Kellen Moore home, another guy who was a longtime Cowboys backup, follows the same Jason Garrett vein, a guy the Jones family can control and kind of keep under their thumb a little bit. It feels like this job, this opening, tailor-made for Kellen Moore, with a very outside dark horse shot at Deion Sanders taking this job.
He's clapping.
Has nothing to do with the take. It has to do with, it will just be Jason Garrett 2.0. Blank stare, clapping no matter what happens. That's what it would be if they hire Kellen Moore. Listen, I'm sorry. Kellen's not the guy. You went over, you looked great in Dallas, but I firmly believe that was Mike McCarthy. He proved that was him. They looked really good when they fired his ass, right? You go over, everybody's high on Justin Herbert. They had the weapons when he was the offensive coordinator, and you were dealing with a pain in the ass as head coach, not even owner. The guy doesn't even have the full say in everything, right? But he has a majority say, and you couldn't make that look good. Now you go over to Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts does not look good. The offense looks good because the GM put in work and brought in so many damn good pieces. I do not think that they are winning because of Kellen Moore. You could have brought back Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator, and they'd be winning some damn games with this roster. For crying out loud, Nick Sirianni saved his job just because of the personnel that they brought in. It wasn't the coordinators necessarily. Like, the coordinators are way better than what he had last year, and they've been doing a decent job, but it's the talent of that roster as to why Philadelphia is really doing their thing. I'm sorry. He's not going to be able to withstand Jerry. It's just not going to happen. I do not see him winning over the locker room like Dan Campbell. He's an X's and O's guy, but we've already proved that we had the better X's and O's guy who's coached a multiple-time MVP quarterback into those MVPs, who's won a Super Bowl. How the hell can you have more trust in Kellen Moore than Mike McCarthy? And I understand why Mike left. I get it. I was ready to move on from Mike. It just wasn't working out. But Mike is absolutely the better guy than Kellen Moore. is absolutely than the guy whose name I keep freaking forgetting at offensive coordinator because he didn't do shit this season because Mike calls the goddamn plays. It does not make sense. But you know what, Charlie? It's probably is what's going to happen. Why? Because it's Jerry freaking Jones, and it never makes sense when it comes to these giant decisions.
And Jerry's always going to get his guy that he wants, you know?
And that's why we will never win anything as long as he is in control. I'm sorry. I like Jerry. Jerry is a Hall of Famer. Jerry has changed the game. He's one of the greatest owners when it comes to the advancement of the league and it comes to bringing in different revenue streams. Him and Robert Kraft are probably the two most important owners of my lifetime. However, you're not made for winning anymore if you still think that you know exactly what it takes because you haven't done it in 20 years. Why should I believe in you now?
Right.
So, yeah, my prediction is going to be Kellen Moore. You guys had to have a guess right now as of today. What would it be?
I like Kellen Moore a lot. That's a good, I liked your reasoning there, Charlie, so I'm going to back you on that one.
Nice.
I do believe that it's probably going to be that. Like I said, if it was my choice of guys that are out there in the league currently, Brian Flores outside of the league, Prime or Belichick, but I'm just dreaming. It's not going to happen. It's probably going to be Kellen Moore. So help me God, it's the offensive coordinator. So help me God, it's the offensive coordinator. There's going to be some furniture moving going on at the Marrazzo household.
We'll see. I mean, and who knows? Maybe Schottenheimer does get this job. Who knows? Because right now he is the betting favorite. That is
Sure.
that is
I'll be referring to him as shoddy because that's what it's going to be. It's just shoddy all over the place. Shoddy offense, shoddy defense, shoddy discipline, shoddy Cowboys.
Brian Schottenheimer in the year of our Lord 2025. Unbelievable, man. I thought we left him in 2010.
Man, the Bills are just really looking like a nice destination. We always talk about moving on from teams, right? Moving to a new location, being there for a long time is, of course, acceptable. Getting a job with an organization and being there for a long time is, of course, acceptable. Father passing, is that acceptable? Honoring the father?
Yeah, I'll let you do it.
I might have
your father's team is it's respectable. It's respectable.
I think my sister is already leaning towards it, and I'm not gonna lie to you. This might be the.
I feel like your dad would think it's sacrilege.
Broke the camel's back.
Your dad would be like, I don't want you coming to the Bills now that we're good. He would think you're bandwagoning.
No. We always, dude. I gotta be honest with you. I don't think anybody's criticized Josh Allen more than my father. Calls his own number far too many times. I'm sick of seeing the kid run. For the love of God, air it out a bit. Even though he literally airs it out, I love him so much. Thank you, pops, for that. But we literally always whenever the Cowboys were playing, we rooted for the Cowboys. The Bills were playing, we rooted for the Bills. They played each other. We were respectfully on either sides of the aisle. So. Bills and Tampa, I don't know what it is about them. They're just, I like those franchises. I used to be an Atlanta fan with Mike Vick as a kid. That slowly faded away. But Tampa and the Bills and the Cowboys, those just seem to be the franchises that I like. And, I don't know. Maybe we move on to a Bills fan, but don't make me do this in the era of Dak. I have too much faith in it, bro. I'm delusional at this point.
We'll see. I mean, depends who the Cowboys hires their head coach. We'll have a more in-depth discussion when that actually happens.
Sneaky candidate too, Kingsbury from Washington.
Cliff would be cool. He's a Texas native as well, so that's
they've been talking about that. I'm more inclined to give him a second shot than the other two.
So we touched on the Saints when Matt was here, of course. My current prediction is Mike McCarthy. I think. And the thing with that is I know Matt's a little more, pessimistic about the whole thing. Mike McCarthy might not put you over the finish line, but he's got a high floor as a head coach. Three straight 12-win seasons in Dallas. I think if you bring him in, I know they're in purgatory, cap hell, aging contracts and veterans and whatnot. I think he's still going to probably get the best out of these guys that he possibly can. I don't know about a playoff berth, but maybe 8-9, 9-8. Who knows?
That's the only reason why I'm afraid of bringing him in. It's just having too much success when you want it to be a down year. They need to hit the reset button. They need to do the fire sale. They need to make him the stable post when everything else is crumbling around and rebuild from that post. That's just my personal take on it. Alvin Kamara, thank you for your service, but you're too valuable to not trade away. Everybody else, Cam, Jordan, thank you very much. We appreciate the hell out of you. You're probably going to be a Hall of Famer. But it's time to move
Derek
on.
Carr, we don't appreciate what you've done. Exit stage left.
You know,
As fast as you possibly can.
dude, honestly, I think the best thing that they possibly could do is start Spencer Rattler and see if Mike can even get something out of him, maybe. You know, I mean, he's there. It's cheap. You know, if anybody's going to be able to get something out of him, it's Mike McCarthy, you know? So, because the one thing that Mike does is he speaks to quarterbacks. I don't know what it is. He ain't capable of doing anything else, but quarterbacks always play their best when they're playing for Mike McCarthy. And you know what? Another thing that I forgot about that Jerry fucked up with? Sean Payton wanted to come to the Cowboys, and you didn't want it. We brought in Mike. We could have brought in Sean, but we brought in Mike. God damn it. God damn it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Oh, this sucks.
You got one more segment, guys.
Well,
Raiders.
we have the Las
Raiders.
Vegas Raiders.
Oh,
The Raiders are
Raiders.
hiring Pete Carroll. That's just what it has to be at this point.
Dude, I just don't see Pete Carroll taking over the reins of an operation at age 75 or
Who's
however old
going?
he
He
is.
wants it. Let him have it. Who else do you have for that team? Brian
Brian
Johnson.
Flores.
Yeah, you think that? I don't understand how they I do not understand. They had the guy. Antonio Pierce was the guy. He wanted to be there. It was Dan Campbell-esque with a way worse roster. For the love of God, he wanted to be there. If you expected him to win any games, it wasn't going to be with that roster. And guess what? He still took down the Ravens with Aiden O'Connell. This was the guy. And you moved on from the guy. They're absolutely.
It was actually Gardner Minshew.
You know what?
When he took down the Ravens,
Sure.
it was Gardner Minshew.
Even worse, my friend. Even it's not much better. I hear you. Thank you for correcting me on that one, but it's, you know what I mean? You beat the Ravens with a D+ quarterback. Honestly, Jerry, go out there and hire Antonio Pierce. At least we'll have some discipline and some damn culture.
What about Todd Monken for Vegas?
That's not bad.
So I was really interested in Todd Monken as a Jets option, but they spurned him 5 years ago and they hired Adam Gase, and he remembered that and didn't even take an interview with the Jets.
Good for him.
Well, I know
yeah.
he interviewed for the Jacksonville job, and I think the Raiders job too. I mean,
I think it would be a good hire.
he took Lamar to new heights. Like Lamar, as we talked about, was, you know, he's a good passing quarterback, not great, but I think under Monken he's had 4,000-yard passing seasons. He's really had like the best 2-year stretch of his career under Monken. Monken made Stetson Bennett a 2-time national championship quarterback, undefeated. Like, this guy's a smart offensive mind. If you can bring him in to Vegas and you draft a quarterback high up there, whether it be Cam Ward or whether it be Shador, whoever it is, I think he can mold that young QB into a system and make them that guy. I mean, Todd Monken should be considered for the Vegas job.
I don't hate that.
I don't want him to
I
get
think
hired.
you're right on that.
I hope he stays in Baltimore forever.
I don't know. I feel like they're still just very upset that, you know, the new shiny object of Ben Johnson is no longer around, and I honestly think that they were very convinced that Tom Brady was going to be the closer on that one, and I think now they're just looking for like experience at the highest level, and I think that's why it's going to be Pete Carroll. But I think Monken is actually an excellent option. But like I said, I will forever stand by. They fired the wrong guy. Antonio Pierce should still be there.
They did end up firing the GM though, so they cleaned house.
Yeah, I get it. New guard, but you had the head coach, and you messed up.
Yeah.
Dude, you don't need an X's and O's guys. You need a guy who can get.
You
the
need
best
some
out
Jims
of a
and
roster.
Joes.
He got just as a guy. Think about this. Max Crosby does not want to leave this franchise. I believe that was because of Antonio Pierce.
They were definitely tight. That's for damn sure.
I firmly believe that was. I would not be surprised if Max Crosby forces his way out of there in 2 years. within 2 years. You know, Detroit, Green Bay. I don't know.
Not a bad options.
All right, so we will see who hires who between the Jags, Cowboys, Raiders, and what am I forgetting? Saints. Thank you. Couldn't remember off the top of my head. And then, of course, those GM jobs need to be filled too, but we'll see. It's going to be a really interesting week. Can't wait for the conference championships this weekend. Guys, real quick, Super Bowl picks. I got, top of my head, Chiefs-Eagles rematch.
I think the NFL is going to get that because the NFL loves to make their fans hate the Super Bowl because the last few years have just been awful Super Bowl matchups. I just hate them, and that's going to be Chiefs-Eagles.
I do not give a damn who comes out of the NFC. Papa Mazz, Bills Super Bowl, lock it in. I have to believe right now. Rest in peace, Pops. Love you, buddy. And this episode absolutely dedicated to you. And I hope the Bills complete the damn story. How romantic would that be? I'm not going to lie. If they do, a piece of me is going to be pissed off that he literally missed out on it by a couple of weeks. But come on, Bills. Bring it home, baby.
RIP.
See? We will see.
Oh, last least, I got to shout out real quick. Just two good buddies of mine. Shout out Billy. Shout out Gino. I needed pallbearers at the last second. Traffic messed us up a little bit. My man jumped into action without even anybody needing to ask. Thank you, fellas, very much. Thank you, everybody that helped out with the services. You already know what it is, and we'll be back next week with another one.
You have been listening to the Mazz and Bad Show with Brandon Marrazzo and Charlie Baduini.